Chapter 501. The moment WF had killed him with a headshot, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's hands had already left the keyboard. He had never expected this WF to actually pick up the AWM that the previous person had been carrying and directly kill him with a headshot. This was the most powerful sniper rifle in the game. Even if you wore a helmet, it was useless. No matter what level your helmet or armor was, you would directly fall to the ground. At this distance, even if Wang Ling wanted to come over and help him up, he wouldn't be able to catch up. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart was filled with despair that almost drove him crazy. He had just wanted to show off a little in front of Wang Ling, but he hadn't expected things to turn out contrary to his wishes. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed in his heart. It was so hard to play games nowadays. But grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had to admit that this WF was really skilled. Brother Ling, you have to be careful. This person has probably already discovered our position, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said as he took off his headphones and looked at Wang Ling next to him. Wang Ling gave a low in a low voice. To be able to restrict grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to this extent, if it wasn't a cheat, it was enough to show that this WF was indeed very skilled. Although grenade-throwing Senior Immortal claimed that he hadn't played this game for a long time, during the craziest period before, he had dragged Immortal Toya to play as a duo and the two of them had rushed into the top 50 of Wuxia's national server. This WF was at least 50th and above, and was clearly a veteran who was very familiar with the map. Given Wang Ling's eyesight, even without enhanced vision, he could still see the minute pixel movements on the map. However, the location of this WF had not been exposed from the beginning to the end. He had been using various blind spots on the map, moving around, and changing cover to conceal his location. This alone was enough to prove how strong this person was. But Wang Ling had a feeling that this WF might be someone close to him. Narrowing his eyes slightly, Wang Ling controlled his character to swiftly look for the next target to enter his shooting range. On the other side, another team in a jeep slowly entered Wang Ling's shooting range. Wang Ling had just opened his scope to take a look, and before he was ready to take action, he immediately heard the crisp sound of a gunshot in the distance. Boom! The UAZ was shot through by the AWM and exploded on the spot. System. Player WF used an AWM to detonate a vehicle, killing players Washizazahui and Washigushional Wang Ling. Very good. Now, Wang Ling was 90% sure that this WF was definitely someone close to him and was most likely here for him. As this WF went on a killing spree, there were more and more doubts about him in Daoist Guang's live stream room. In fact, this was very normal. When a person's operation exceeded the standard of ordinary people, they would basically be said to have cheats. This kind of voice was inevitable. Just like when Daoist Guang's live stream had become popular a while ago, he had also been questioned. But after Daoist Guang had chopped down 20 people in a row with a katana and helped a little brother win chicken dinner, the voices of doubt had clearly lessened. After all, even those trolls had never seen this kind of operation of continuously chopping down people with a melee weapon and helping a person win chicken dinner, and they really didn't know where to start. At that time, the super administrator of the Cultivation livestream platform had specially come to monitor Daoist Guang's livestream data, and hadn't found anything unusual. Now that Daoist Guang had more and more fans and the light chasers continued to support him, to a certain extent, the trend of people with ulterior motives deliberately helping Daoist Guang use cheats back then was eased. To put it bluntly, whether he used cheats or not depended purely on whether the audience bought it or not. For a passerby to play so well, unless he had an identity that matched his strength, in the eyes of the vast majority of the audience, this person was no different from those immortals who used cheats. Lord Island. Is that WF really not using cheats? I don't believe it. His ID is all over the public screen in reality, and he's about to flood the screen. Could this be some guru's alternate account? Looking at the bullet messages, Daoist Guang felt that the situation wasn't right, so he asked Father Wang, "Brother Ju, what did your anti-cheat brother say?" "He's already run tests. This person's data is all normal, and he's not a cheat. This anti-cheat system my friend designed can detect him in an instant, even if he's using self-aiming and X-ray vision," Father Wang replied with a smile. After all, it was Little Ming who had designed the software. Who was Little Ming? This was the most powerful brain in the country. In order to make their games look better, many live streamers nowadays would choose to use a X-ray vision cheat, no matter how accurate their marksmanship was. In this way, they could discover as many enemies as possible and obtain the resources they wanted. Furthermore, X-ray vision cheats were the most difficult to detect. Rich live streamers nowadays would choose to split the screen with another monitor, so that the audience wouldn't be able to see anything unusual at all during the live stream. To be able to detect a X-ray vision cheat in an instant, this anti-cheat software could already be said to be quite formidable. Of course, there was almost no doubt in the bullet messages in the live stream room about Father Wang's words. Because before this, Wang Ming had already used his anti-cheat sanction software to recreate the earth-shattering operation of Samsara Tianxing, resurrecting water friends. Compared with anti-cheat software that could even resurrect the dead, detecting cheating through X-ray vision and the like was a completely normal operation. At that moment, Daoist Guang and Father Wang were crouched in a small building outside the airport, which happened to be on the edge of the safe zone. They planned to wait until the next safe zone refreshed before taking action, so they were going to stay here for a while. At that moment, Daoist Guang heard the sound of a door opening downstairs. It was so loud that all the water friends in the live stream room heard it. Someone was coming. Daoist Guang and Father Wang aimed their rifles at the entrance to the corridor. If this person dared show his head, he would die. But the man's steps stopped at the top of the stairs on the first floor. "Don't be nervous, it's me." Right after that, the water friends in the live stream room heard an unfamiliar voice. Was it Little Ming? When Father Wang heard Wang Ming's voice, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. "Lord Island, this is my anti-cheat friend." Daoist Guang nodded and put away his gun. "Little brother, it's been hard on you. Do you need anything? I have everything here." "I don't need anything, I don't need anything." Wang Ming smiled. "I punished those people who cheated earlier, so all their equipment was mine." Water friends, Daoist Guang, Father Wang, Daoist Guang. Then this brother called WF really isn't a cheat? Of course not, I can test it out here. No anti-cheat software from any game company or live stream platform is as good as mine, Wang Ming said. But I'm going to meet him now. Where is this brother? Asked Daoist Guang. This brother's movements are very erratic, but I want to fight him here in the crane, Wang Ming quickly replied with an enigmatic smile on his face. Wang Ming quickly replied with an enigmatic smile on his face. I know that brother is definitely watching Lord Island's live stream right now, so I specially came over to explain the situation to Lord Island. Daoist Guang. Then what do you mean, little brother? Wang Ming. I want Lord Island to come with me. Broadcast our fight. Everyone, don't interfere. I just think that person is too arrogant, so I want to help everyone vent their anger. A live broadcast was fine. Wang Ling glanced at the live stream room. Wang Ming's voice didn't surprise him at all. But very quickly, Wang Ming added, another thing is that I want to take this opportunity to show off my stupid little brother's skills. Wang Ling. F** King retard. Chapter 502. Wang Ming knew that Wang Ling would definitely be watching the live stream as he said this. He knew Wang Ling's personality too well, and he felt that even if he used his butt to think, he could guess what Wang Ling was planning. Wang Ming felt that this was a rare opportunity for him to show off. He couldn't compare to Wang Ling in cultivation, but at least in this digitalized game world, he felt that he could indeed do whatever he wanted. Daoist Guang and Father Wang had a fully equipped jeep which they had specially prepared for their charge into the circle. Now, Wang Ming was in the driver's seat, honking and stepping on the accelerator as he sped off in the direction of the Youtiao. Of course, it wasn't actually Wang Ming who was driving the car, but the character he had created called TTXS. Thus, Wang Ming didn't have to worry about the car flipping over at all, and it was precisely because of this that the car could perform a lot of inhuman tricks. Accelerate. Wang Ming gave TTXS the order, and the jeep abruptly sped up to the maximum. This was at the edge of the Sosnovka military base circle. There were many different obstacles. Many people would choose to abandon their cars and walk through this circle. This was because it was a classic case of driving a car back and forth between the obstacles and crashing into them. When the jeep jumped over a stone, a lot of people in the bullet messages thought it was going to flip over. Ah! The iron gates of the airport are right in front. Can't you just drive around the stone block? Infuriating live streamer. Damn! The car is going to flip over. It's definitely going to explode. This is the death stone block. I've flipped over here countless times. This anti-cheat brother's driving skills aren't good. He definitely hasn't gotten a driver's license yet. For a moment, A lot of people were talking about it in the live stream room. In the end, something unexpected happened. When the Jeep jumped over the stone block at top speed, not only did it not get stuck, it instead jumped up and passed through the iron gates in front of it like a tornado. What the hell? What kind of operation was this? Those people didn't know that this was an intelligent operation directly controlled by Wang Ming's software, and thought that it was Wang Ming himself who had done it. In an instant, the live stream room was flooded with 666 comments, and even Daoist Guang and Father Wang were kept in the dark. Am I handsome? Wang Ming asked softly. I couldn't tell that little brother had this skill. Daoist Guang sked. To be honest, this maneuver was a little showy. If he were to participate in the Fast and the Furious 8+ with his driving skills. Wow! Little brother anti-cheat's move is too amazing. Coach, I want to learn. Coach, you want to learn everything? I can't teach you. This move is too difficult. I can't learn it. Looking at the bullet messages in the live stream room, Wang Ming couldn't help laughing. You want to learn? I can teach you. This move is called Tornado Charge Tornado. Four-wheel drive brothers. Please understand. The fans were speechless. Father Wang and Daoist Guang. Wang Ling. What kind of tornado charge was this? He was afraid that the rapid cobras were coming out from behind. This was a very meticulous and precise maneuver. Wang Ming was very confident in the software he had designed. The game was nothing more than a mass of data, and the artificial intelligence system implanted in Wang Ming's anti-cheat software could not only precisely control the character, but could also maximize the character's abilities based on the game's reasonable data. That was to say, all the maneuvers that Wang Ming's character could perform were currently the limits of what was possible in this game. This was already the last few circles, and there were less than 30 people left. All the gunfire had already stopped. Some meddlesome fans in the live stream room had named this battle Decisive Battle. Crane, Youtiao, Summit. At that moment, everyone's attention was on them. All the water friends participating in this water friend match had already agreed that no one was allowed to shoot before the battle between Wang Ming and Feng Xing was over. The jeep soon arrived at the bottom of the suspension bridge, and Wang Ming got out. Good luck, brother, Daoist Guang said solemnly. In the end, Father Wang chose to stay in the car, while Daoist Guang followed behind Wang Ming to act as a live broadcast member. The two of them maintained a distance of several body lengths. Because Daoist Guang was the camera in the live stream room, he could only do his best to change his angle of view so that the water friends in the live stream room could see the battle more clearly. On the other side, the figure of that mysterious WF finally made its debut in front of everyone. It was a female character with a ponytail and a baseball cap. She was wearing a black jacket and a short skirt, both of which were rare items in the game. Most importantly, this miniskirt was pink. Miniskirts were the most valuable among rare fashion items, and a limited edition miniskirt could fetch a very high price. Usually, a miniskirt could sell for thousands or even tens of thousands of HNY. Players could obtain these miniskirts through online transactions. But the pink miniskirt was the only one that couldn't be bought, because there were only 3 of them in the entire server, and this was the only miniskirt that was banned from sale. Thus, it could only be sold together with the account. Previously, there had been an account with a pink miniskirt which sold for a super high price of 3,000 immortal gold bars. For many ordinary players, this was already an immeasurable value. For a game account to sell for 3,000 immortal gold bars just because of a fashion item was truly shocking. After seeing the real WF in Daoist Guang's live stream room, there was a flurry of bullet messages. What the hell? What did I see? A pink mini skirt. As expected, it's impossible to understand the world of the nouveau riche. Not necessarily. This miniskirt might not have been bought, but if it was drawn, then this little brother's account is definitely very old. For many players who were familiar with the game, the pink miniskirt had become a symbol. A symbol of the strong. Conversely, this just showed that this WF player was something. At that moment, Wang Ming and Feng Xing's characters were facing each other. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the image from Daoist Guang's first-person perspective. Father Wang, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji, Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Everyone was watching intently. The two of them faced each other. As if they had already discussed this beforehand, they switched their guns to sniper rifles. A 98K against a sniper rifle? Wang Ling was also startled at this scene. But very quickly, everyone heard two slightly overlapping gunshots. Shots fired. Wang Ming's character reacted almost the instant Feng Xing fired, and he swiftly moved sideways to hide behind an iron pillar on the crane. At the same time, he fired back with a backhand shot. This movement was almost synchronized with Feng Xing's action. His reaction was swift and smooth, and it was too much for the eye to take in. But if you had a certain level of dynamic vision, you would be able to see this scene very clearly. Wang Ling saw Feng Xing's bullet hit the iron pillar in front of Wang Ming, while Wang Ming's backhand shot was blocked by the frying pan which Feng Xing had switched to in a flash. That works. Everyone was stunned. The two of them were sniping at each other at close range, but neither of them had hit the other. But it was at that moment that a scene that made everyone's jaws drop happened. Because Daoist Guang saw Wang Ming actually take out a frying pan. The character controlled by Wang Ming waved it lightly. Bang! The bullet which Feng Xing had blocked with the frying pan just now was sent back. F***K. Daoist Guang couldn't help swearing. F***K. Chapter 503. What was going on? Not everyone's realm was at the soul formation stage. Their movements were really too fast. From Daoist Guang's perspective of the livestream, he could barely see the two of them waving the frying pans in their hands, and couldn't clearly see what was going on at all. Although it was now an era of national cultivation, it would already be pretty good if you could find 10 soul formation cultivators among the 10 million people watching Daoist Guang's livestream. If you wanted to clearly see the trajectory of a bullet, you had to have dynamic vision at the soul formation stage at the very least. You can adjust the speed of the livestream. Everyone, slow down the video to the slowest. We should be able to see it clearly. At this time, some of the viewers in the live stream room suggested, and everyone started to follow suit. I can really see it clearly. It's just that it looks a little laggy. It's not that they're stuck, they're moving too fast and Lord Island's live stream frame rate can't keep up. Wang Ming crossed his arms in front of the computer screen and used his voice to control his character to execute all kinds of fancy counterattacks. Outside spin serve. Wang Ling. Then, everyone saw the character controlled by Wang Ming knock the bullet to the ground with a wave of his hand. The bullet spun on the ground at a strange angle, then bounced up. These movements were completed in an instant. The bullet's trajectory was even faster, and it instantly appeared in front of Feng Xing's character. Just a little bit more and his head would have exploded. However, Feng Xing reacted very quickly as he swiftly waved the frying pan to block his face and counterattacked. It wasn't just the water friends in the live stream room. Even Daoist Guang and the others couldn't help trembling and staring dumbstruck at this move. Father Wang. Damn! What's going on? Grenade-throwing senior immortal. The hell? A swallow returning to its nest? On the other side, Feng Xing's bullet had just returned when Wang Ming's character started to perform again. Grenade-throwing senior immortal. The hell? The brown bear was caught? This time, even Loopy Toad and Wei Ji couldn't help crying out at the same time. F***K. Brown bear was caught? These skills were all high-level skills written in the new Guide to Glory. It was a new unit that the legendary Great God Yi had released based on the recent popularity of the game. And these skills were all from this new edition of the Frying Pan Special, which described all kinds of techniques to use the frying pan. However, there were very few people who could truly master this technique. The two of them faced each other and smacked each other's bullets with their frying pans. Wang Ming set up the software again and developed a private voice interface. Only Feng Xing could hear what Wang Ming said in this interface. Wang Ming crossed his fingers and rested his chin on his fingers as he sat upright in front of the screen, an indescribable smile on his face. Give up, classmate Feng. You can't beat me in this world. Oh, so it's Brother Ming, Feng Xing said in a clear and bright voice, looking as if he had just been enlightened. He noticed that he had entered a private voice channel. You already know the answer. Wang Ming smiled. Wang Ming didn't find it strange at all that Feng Xing knew his identity. Actually, Wang Ming had secretly investigated Feng Xing and knew his true identity. Because Feng Xing had inherited Immortal Shi Pai's formidable power from a young age, he had been sent to a secret national orphanage when he was born. It was an orphanage secretly established by the magnificent Immortal Special Forces Brigade. It housed all kinds of gifted children from all over the country. Often, Children who inherited powerful abilities from a young age could go astray on their path of growth if they didn't receive the right guidance. Of course, Wang Ling was an exception, because father and mother Wang were very ambitious and firmly believed that they could educate Wang Ling well. And the facts proved that father and mother Wang had indeed done it. Wang Ming himself was naturally also gifted. But because he hadn't been able to cultivate since he was a child, he remembered that his parents had always educated him as an ordinary child. Apart from the fact that he had learned to speak very, very early, he hadn't noticed anything unusual about him. As for why he had been noticed by Wuxia Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science, it was in fact purely because he had recommended himself. Wang Ming remembered that when he was 4 years old, he had sneaked out of bed while his parents were asleep to hack into the national database and find the email address of the president of Wuxia Nation's Cultivation Academy of Science. Then, he had sent a paper he had written on magic treasures to him. Wang Ming had heard that when he had sent the paper to President Qi, the latter had been so excited that he had cried. So strictly speaking, Feng Xing and Magnificent Immortal had some connection. It wasn't until he had passed Magnificent Immortal's personality test at the age of 7 that Magnificent Immortal helped him find a couple who wanted to adopt a child. The name Feng Xing had actually been given by the Feng family couple who had come to adopt him back then. In the orphanage, Feng Xing didn't have his own name, only his code name. His code name was 36. Some of this information had been found out by Wang Ming, while others had been supplemented by Zhai Yin. For the most part, Zhai Yin's information on Magnificent Immortal was more reliable than what most people could get from gossip. It seems that Brother Ming knows a lot of things? Feng Xing replied as he waved the frying pan in response. My little brother is being watched every day. Of course I would notice. Classmate Feng Xing, distance makes the heart grow fonder. You follow my little brother when he plays a game. Isn't that a little inappropriate? Brother Ming, you're wrong. Didn't you follow him as well? Wang Ming grit his teeth. It was a coincidence. At that moment, the two of them had already gone back and forth with the same bullet more than 10 times. When Wang Ming returned fire the next time, Feng Xing suddenly realized that the trajectory of the bullet's attack seemed to have changed. When he waved the frying pan, the bullet moved at a strange angle like an arc of lightning to avoid Feng Xing's next block. As he waved the frying pan, Feng Xing had already sensed that the situation wasn't good. Brother Ming, you're amazing. I've learned a lot. This time, Wang Ming's bullet successfully hit Feng Xing's head. Feng Xing was directly killed. The water friends in the live stream room were so shocked that their jaws dropped. They felt that Wang Ming's sudden change in style looked a little familiar. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression changed at this scene. What the hell? This is... Seeing that he had killed Feng Xing, Wang Ming smiled as he had wished. Good thing he was quick-witted. He had also written the data on the national table tennis style into the software. On the side, Taoist Guang was dumbstruck. Little brother, is this the table tennis style? Wang Ming nodded. That's right. To be precise, it should be the national table tennis style. When I use my national table tennis style, what do you use your head to catch my bullet? Everyone sucked in a cold breath at this scene. Even Wang Ling couldn't help twitching the corner of his mouth. Chapter 504. Wang Ming wasn't the slightest bit surprised by this result. He indeed didn't have much talent in cultivation, but he believed that he had never lost in a digital game. Taoist Guang's live stream room was about to explode. Because of Wang Ming and Feng Xing's godly maneuver, the link to the live stream room was being forwarded like crazy online, and the number of people in Taoist Guang's live stream room very quickly broke the 10 million mark and was heading toward 11 million. In the study, Father Wang and Lai Mingming's mouths were wide enough to fit an egg in. Father Wang had already anticipated that after Taoist Guang's duel was taken off the air today, the video of Wang Ming and Feng Xing's duel would go viral online. Taking a deep, imperceptible breath, Father Wang forced himself to calm down and send Wang Ming a voice message. Little Ming, is this really okay? Father Wang felt that Wang Ming's action was a little excessive. Wang Ling had to hide his true strength, and Wang Ming had to hide his identity at the same time. In some sense, these two brothers were actually a little similar. Although Wang Ming was operating the character TTXS, there was a lot of human flesh on the internet nowadays. If some meddlesome netizen really exposed Wang Ming's identity, it would be a big deal. Uncle, don't worry, it's fine. Wang Ming sent a voice message in a rather understated manner. Father Wang, Aren't you afraid that netizens will do human flesh on you? Human flesh on me? Uncle, you're thinking too much. Wang Ming laughed. Human flesh on him? How could it be so easy? Although he had used the Research Institute's computer to have a little fun today, hacking into the game company's server terminal twice, and even personally killing that Feng Xing, it had indeed seemed a little high profile. But Wang Ming was confident that he hadn't left any loopholes. Forget the fact that the game company's technicians wouldn't be able to find out at all. It was complete nonsense for netizens to do human flesh on him. He had too many fake identities, and it was old Qi who had helped him register them. When Wang Ming had given Wang Ling the Dao talisman previously, the police had misunderstood and taken him to the police station. In the end, the only information they could find on him after a long investigation was the fake identity of Wang Shower. Always have a backup plan. Once this video is released today, you'll definitely attract attention, said Father Wang. It's fine, it's fine. I'll be responsible for deleting that video. I guarantee it won't be seen in the country. As for whether the game company will come after me, you don't have to worry, Uncle. Don't you still have old Qi? At the very most, I'll ask old Qi to give the game company a call and act cute to them. Cough. Hearing this, President Qi almost directly spat out his coffee on Wang Ming's screen and directly choked. No matter what, he was one of the 10 founding generals of Wuxia Nation. To be able to sit on the same level as Yi Jianchuan, Zhang Lei, and Sun Dakong. What kind of identity was that? What does it mean to act cute? You're always bothering President Qi. Isn't that too good? Of course Father Wang knew who this old Qi Wang Ming was talking about was. After all, old Qi's biggest boss was his fan, so Father Wang wasn't completely clueless about this. It's all right, Uncle. I am a deep-water wolf, and old Qi is a barb wolf. We've been partners like this all these years, perfectly concealing my true identity. Wang Ming laughed. Father Wang, President Qi. Old Qi felt that he had spoiled Wang Ming a little too much in the last few years. Although they were superior and subordinate, old Qi had never used the tone of a superior to order Wang Ming to do anything. On one hand, Wang Ming did indeed do things neatly and efficiently, and was also quite reliable. On the other hand, Wang Ming had been here since he was very young. When he was 4, old Qi had discovered him, and after training him in private for 3 years, he had directly brought him back to the Research Institute. After spending more than 10 years together, old Qi had long since regarded Wang Ming as his own grandson. In the last few years, old Qi had also realized that the number of times he had to clean up Wang Ming's mess seemed to be increasing, and it was almost like a blowout. Seeing that Wang Ming and Father Wang were chatting happily, President Qi looked at the time and couldn't help reminding Wang Ming, "Little Ming, Jiayin will be back very soon. It's fine. I'll leave now, and I'll still make it in time to queue up for a solo match." Wang Ming waved his hand. "But, no buts. She's just a woman. We men need to be unyielding, understand?" Wang Ming replied without turning his head. As soon as he said this, Wang Ming suddenly felt a slender hand full of cold air pressed down on his shoulder. Wang Ming. Judging from the feeling on his shoulder, he was sure that this hand definitely didn't belong to President Qi. Play a game? Jia Yin stared at Wang Ming's back, her gaze shifting unpredictably, making Wang Ming shudder. Holding his coffee cup, old Qi couldn't help sighing. He got up and patted Wang Ming on the shoulder as he stifled a laugh. "I'm not just a barbed wolf, I'm also a prophet." Wang Ming. Elsewhere, the game was still going on. After Wang Ming used his created character, TTXS, to kill Feng Xing, water friends in the live stream room quickly noticed that this anti-cheat little brother's character had started to twitch abnormally. Disconnected? Daoist Guang was blank. Father Wang dropped his forehead into his hand. "No. I've been sanctioned," Daoist Guang. Although he didn't know exactly what had happened to Wang Ming, Wang Ling felt that it most likely had something to do with Jia Yin. Daoist Guang got back into the jeep and the water friends match resumed. It was already the last few circles. Because Wang Ming had disconnected and Feng Xing had been killed, there were now exactly 28 people. Wang Ling was still on the rooftop of the small building. This circle was already very small, and Wang Ling predicted that a chaotic battle was bound to break out soon. But he still hadn't seen Loopy Toad and Wei Ji. Given Dog 2's personality, Wang Ling felt that this guy might be hiding somewhere right now. The circle on the map was already very small, and the number of people continued to drop at a very slow pace amid the sounds of gunfire. In the last few safe circles, a lot of people weren't playing as casually as before, and were starting to be especially cautious. At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly heard the faint sound of a door opening. Someone had circled around from behind. This instantly raised Wang Ling's vigilance. At the same time, he was still on the rooftop, and he heard this group's conversation. "Brother Dog, it looks like this building has already been searched. Maybe there's someone inside." Be careful." Loopy Toad nodded. "By the way, Brother Dog, how long are you going to play today?" "One more round at most." "So soon?" In front of the screen, Loopy Toad shook its soft green fur. "I don't know why. As soon as I walked into this house, I felt like my master was staring at me." Chapter 505. Wang Ling was silent on the rooftop as he quietly listened to Wei Ji and Loopy Toad's conversation. One man and one dog were very vigilant as they searched every inch of this small building. This was a small military factory with a circular layout, and there were a lot of machinery and equipment. This was usually the kind of place where LYBs were most likely to appear. When all was said and done, PUBG was a survival shooting game. As long as you could survive to the end, there was nothing to be ashamed of even if you got 0 kills. So in this kind of game, big players had their own way of playing and small players had their own way of playing. Big players competed with their marksmanship, while small players competed with their wits, so moral integrity and whatnot didn't exist at all. Because the building Wang Ling was in the center of the safe zone, Loopy Toad and Wei Ji were especially careful in their search. It was very obvious that someone had already searched this place. If no one was crouching there, this was definitely the most advantageous position in this safe zone. The only place where they could snipe this building was the crane, but after the last round of the blue circle's contraction, the crane was already inside the blue circle, so they could basically eliminate this unstable factor. Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had their characters back to back as they searched the first and second floors. Now, only the third floor and the rooftop were left. "Brother Dog, are you really going to leave after a while?" Wei Ji actually felt that they didn't have enough time. 2 rounds of PUBG, even if it was a quality match, would only last 1.5 hours at most, which actually wasn't enough time to enjoy themselves to the fullest. "Brother Dog, how about you tell your master directly?" At that moment, Wei Ji suggested that Loopy Toad come clean and talk to him properly. As a professional pet trainer, most of the time, the relationship between a pet trainer and a spirit beast wasn't that of an owner and a pet. For Wei Ji, an outstanding pet trainer should position himself as a friend in front of the spirit beast he had signed a contract with. Only then would it be beneficial for long-term development. This was also a technique to improve tacit understanding. Most of the time, a spirit beast's personality could in fact reflect its master's personality. Looking at Loopy Toad's personality, Wei Ji felt that its master was probably a relatively open-minded and lively person. Actually, the word lively seemed a little out of place for him, but Wei Ji wasn't wrong. Although Wang Ling didn't say anything, at least he was very lively in his heart. No, let me go back first." Loopy Toad still felt a little cowardly. For some reason, it realized that as it moved its character from the first floor to the second floor, and then from the second floor to the third floor, the feeling of Little Master Ling staring at it intensified, as if Little Master Ling was right next to it, staring at it and listening to it speak. "All right then." Wei Ji pursed his lips and didn't insist. Wei Ji hadn't planned on playing games today at first, but Loopy Toad had set the pace, and as he played, his interest had been piqued. Now that Loopy Toad had suddenly said that it would be leaving, Wei Ji felt a little disappointed. He realized that he really liked Loopy Toad. After these few interactions, Wei Ji was already burdened by the lack of spirit beast rations, and had even taken on a part-time job as a spellmaster for spirit beasts. But even so, Wei Ji still had the urge to raise a dog. Loopy Toad looked at Wei Ji's silent expression next to it and said, "Worst comes to worst, we can find a chance to get online later. I bought a computer." Wei Ji was taken aback. "Where did you get the money, Loopy Toad? It's a trade between peers." Wei Ji. Wang Ling was blank at this answer, but he very quickly thought of a possibility. He felt that Loopy Toad's source of income most likely came from Little Silver. That was because he remembered that when he and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had chatted previously, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had brought up Little Silver's lifestyle. Since Little Silver ate a lot and ordered a lot of takeout every day, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had straightaway transferred 1,000,000 yuan to Little Silver's card. Thus, Little Silver had some money on him. As for how Loopy Toad had made a deal with Little Silver, Wang Ling would have to confirm it later to find out. Actually, Wang Ling had thought of a lot of answers, and felt that this one was the most reasonable. That was because he knew that Loopy Toad and Little Silver had added each other as friends, and when they had just added each other, Loopy Toad had even used its dog legs to tease Little Silver. Mobile payments in China were now #1 in the world, and online transfers were too convenient. This also explained why Loopy Toad had so much money on it. Wei Ji asked curiously, "Did you spend money to buy those cultivation methods?" "Of course not, they're contraband. My friend gave them to me." Loopy Toad shook its head. The spirit techniques that Little Silver had given it were already out of print and couldn't be bought outside. That basic dog skills in particular was probably the famous spirit technique of the Holy Dog clan back then. Dog Saint had personally researched it, and it was very much in line with the design of dog body engineering. The third floor of the military factory was very big. As the two of them searched the rooms and chatted, they didn't notice at all that Wang Ling was eavesdropping on them from the rooftop. "So you've learned them all?" Wei Ji asked again. "No. I'm still studying them." Loopy Toad sighed. "It's not that easy. Did you get agitated after coming back from that small town of the Demon Hunters Association? I felt that you didn't cultivate any spirit techniques before." Loopy Toad. Speaking of this, Loopy Toad suddenly felt a little sad. It wasn't that it didn't know any spirit techniques. It just couldn't use them. All the techniques and spirit techniques of the Toad clan were now in its head, but apart from the space-swallowing spell and tongue technique, there were no other techniques that suited it at all. Thus, Loopy Toad felt that its current situation was like switching from a mage to a warrior in the middle of a game, and it couldn't use any of its equipment or skills. Every spirit beast had its own characteristics, and it was impossible to mix and match a melee mage like this in the spirit beast circle. "I've been concentrating on cultivating techniques before, but if I want to defend myself, I still need to learn a few techniques." Loopy Toad muttered to itself before saying, "I'm learning all these for the tribe." It sounded like a joke at first, and Wei Ji didn't take it to heart, but Wang Ling suddenly thought of something. "For the tribe?" Wang Ling suddenly felt like he understood something. Combined with Loopy Toad's recent abnormal behavior, as well as the first version of the Gate Between Worlds blueprint which Taoist Guang had given Loopy Toad previously, Wang Ling was now very sure that what Loopy Toad was hiding most likely had something to do with the Gate Between Worlds. Or to be more precise, it had something to do with the Toad clan inside the gate. Thinking this, he directly turned off the game. "Brother Ling, you're not playing anymore?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was blank. Wang Ling nodded. He had more or less figured out the whole story, so there was no need to play the game anymore. Wang Ling's original purpose in playing the game had been to find out what on earth Loopy Toad was hiding from him. Sitting in his chair, Wang Ling cupped his chin in his hand as he pondered for a while, sorting out the things he had just deduced in his mind. About 5 minutes later, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly noticed a very strange phenomenon. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Brother Ling, your character doesn't seem to have disconnected. Wang Ling. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't quit the game. He switched his view to Wang Ling's character, and realized that more than half of his character's body was stuck in a corner. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal deduced that this was probably a bug caused by Wang Ling directly turning off the game. But the problem was that no one would be able to find Wang Ling at all. "Bloody hell, Brother Ling. We're going to win chicken dinner." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was stunned. This was King possible. Chapter 506. Wang Ling rarely played games, because for him, they were really boring. But this game was different, and he finally found some fun and value in it. At least, this was a bridge to communicate with Buttface. Because of Loopy Toad's special identity, Wang Ling was usually very careful and never asked it too many questions about its previous life as a demon king. He was afraid that he would agitate his Buttface and cause irreversible damage to Buttface's mind. Actually, after careful analysis, Wang Ling felt that Loopy Toad's experience before it had become a dog had really traumatized it. First of all, when Buttface was still a demon king, he was pushed out of the Gate Between Worlds by other demon kings. He landed on the ground for less than 3 seconds before he was killed by Su Kei's fists. The second was the entrance test. Buttface's primordial spirit was placed in the testing system of the school and used by the students as a sandbag for the grading test at the beginning of the school term. In the end, it met him again. Wang Ling remembered that Dog 2 had been so scared at that time that it had fallen flat on its back and rolled its eyes. Finally, it was the third time. In Teacher Pan's Dao Talismans class, everyone used spirit summoning talismans to summon ghosts. At that time, Dog 2 had racked his brains and abandoned most of his primordial spirit in an attempt to escape from the school. In the end, he hadn't even made it out of the school gates before he was summoned to the class with a talisman. And then, there was no then. Buttface had completely turned into a dog. Wang Ling felt that Loopy Toad was probably the only one who knew what it was like to run into two existences that could be said to be childhood shadows in a row. Wang Ling didn't ask about Loopy Toad's predecessor, but that didn't mean he didn't care. After all, this was his dog too, who had already been acknowledged by his family. As its master, there was no way he could ignore it. From what Wang Ling could sense now, Loopy Toad's worries clearly had something to do with its tribe in the Gate Between Worlds, and it was very likely that there was something urgent on its mind. As for why Loopy Toad hadn't directly discussed it with him, he also had his own analysis. Before Buttface had turned into a dog, he had been a demon king and had been arrogant. He also had the determination to bid farewell to his past. So, this guy actually wanted to end it all himself. Wang Ling was also shocked. Where did Buttface get his courage from? Liang Jingru? Given Loopy Toad's current overall fighting strength, Wang Ling felt that Dog 2 entering the door would be pure suicide. Wang Ling communicated his deduction telepathically to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expression was also indescribably shocked. Brother Ling, do you think that Brother Dog's abnormal reaction recently has something to do with the sky-swallowing Toad clan in the Gate Between Worlds? This answer was unexpected for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, but completely reasonable. After thinking about it, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal increasingly felt that Wang Ling's answer was very reliable. Brother Dog hasn't completely severed ties with his predecessor, so it's indeed possible that he has connections with the original tribe of the Gate Between Worlds. Saying this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at Mr. Liu, who was sitting upright on the floor in a well-behaved manner. After the heavy injury effect of Little Silver's phlegm disappeared, the spell of creation and rebirth had already taken effect. Mr. Liu's injuries were now completely healed, but there were still some bloodstains on the surface of his skin. The regenerative abilities of the Traiants were indeed terrifying. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help sighing in his heart. It was all thanks to Little Silver's phlegm, otherwise it would have been very difficult to deal with them. Unless they had the explosive power of Wang Ling's crippling attack, other true immortal experts really might not be able to kill them. Mr. Liu, how much do you know about the Gate Between Worlds? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked. Mr. Liu was originally a demon tree from the Gate Between Worlds. Although he was now working in the human world, he definitely had some way to keep in touch with the Traiants in the Gate Between Worlds. Mr. Liu thought for a bit, then nodded and replied, I have a magic artifact that can indeed keep in touch with my clan. Now that things had come to this, Mr. Liu had already decided to switch sides, so he didn't hide it anymore. He indeed had a way to keep in touch with the Traiants in the Gate Between Worlds, but he could only get in touch with some of the clan's elders. Then can you ask me about the sky-swallowing Toad clan? I'll have to find out more. The truth is that the demon race isn't as united as humans think. All the clans plot against each other, and in order to compete for territory and resources, they use all kinds of excuses to break out all year round. Speaking up to this point, Mr. Liu sighed. If the demon world was really peaceful, there would be no need for him to take the risk of coming to the human world to work, and for him to be duped with a fake spirit sword. That was truly a great humiliation. The truth was that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had some understanding of what Mr. Liu was talking about, but he hadn't confirmed it yet. The demon world wasn't peaceful. In fact, someone had leaked this information anonymously on the cultivation forum before, but Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always been skeptical about it. But now that he heard Mr. Liu say this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly recalled some of the juicy information that the informant had leaked. It seemed that the informant had mentioned that a large-scale battle was about to break out in the demon world between the two major clans. I'll have to trouble Mr. Liu to find out more about this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said as he cupped his chin and looked at Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu nodded. All right. I've already discussed it with Brother Ling. From now on, Mr. Lu will work for me. We won't send you to the police station for the time being, but before that, you have to atone for your crimes. Do you have any objections?
No. Mr. Lu lowered his head and kept glancing at Wang Ling out of the corner of his eye.
As grenade-throwing Senior Immortal spoke, he saw that Wang Ling was thoughtfully fiddling with the mousepad in his hand, which made Mr. Lu shudder all over. Previously, it was just a very casual attack, and a mousepad had almost killed him on the spot. He didn't want to be whipped again. Previously, I took in a butler with the surname Song. His full name was Song Qing Shu. He's helping me with some of the extra properties. You just need to follow him and work for him. He will guide you through the journey of atonement bit by bit. Saying this, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. Actually, it's not a very difficult job. Mr. Lu should be very good at it. Specifically, what kind of work? Mr. Lu was still a little flustered. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Recently, the country has invested a lot of charity money to set up a lot of rescue stations and orphanages in remote areas. But because they're all new, the smell inside is too strong. It just so happens that Mr. Lu can help remove the formaldehyde or something. Mr. Lu. Chapter 507. That afternoon, with a text from Wang Ling, Audiobook directly left the office and drove to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's house. Because the incident with the Demon Hunters Association hadn't been completely resolved, Audiobook, as the chief commander of this operation, had no choice but to take the weekend off. In fact, the curtains on this entire matter had already been drawn down, with the only thing missing was that legendary President Bai, and the operation to close the net in various places was more or less complete. This time, they had spent so much police force to launch a heavy attack. This was not only a show of strength against some illegal spirit beast trafficking, but also a manifestation of the country's boldness to keep its word. Back then, after the holy beasts were massacred by human cultivators because of some rumors and slanders, the law against torturing and killing holy beasts had always existed, but the punishment was obviously not strong enough. Especially in recent years, many spirit beasts had fallen into a state of imminent extinction, so people could not help but pay attention to them. So when he received Wang Ling's text message this time saying that there was a lead on that President Bai of the Demon Hunters Association, Audiobook instantly jumped out of his chair. As for the general administration of 100 schools, Zhong Lang, the deputy director, would be there when he wasn't around, so there was no need to worry at all. Along the way, Audiobook's heart was apprehensive and excited. He was apprehensive because he wasn't sure whether he would be able to catch President Bai in the end, and excited because he would be able to see Shifu again. Although Audiobook felt that he hadn't learned any real skills from Wang Ling and was just following him around and taking the blame, he actually felt that he was enjoying it. Being able to take the blame for Shifu was actually an honor. Moreover, Audiobook deeply felt that this was a mental test, and that he hadn't received Wang Ling's true approval. In fairy tales, when a cat teaches a tiger to be its master, it doesn't teach the tiger how to climb a tree. What was more, Audiobook didn't think he was a tiger. He might never be able to catch up to his Shifu in this lifetime, but at the very least, he felt that he had learned something. For example, he was getting more and more proficient at carrying the blame. And most importantly, Audiobook felt that he was becoming more and more slick in handling things. This was all thanks to his master's incorruptible teachings. Learning was a gradual process and there was plenty of time ahead, so Audiobook wasn't in a hurry at all. By the time Audiobook arrived at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's house, it hadn't actually been long. It was only about half an hour. On the way here, Audiobook had asked grenade-throwing Senior Immortal about the general situation, and learned about that forest fairy, Mr. Lu. When they entered the villa, it was Little Silver who bounced to open the door. Audiobook had heard from his Shifu Wang Ling before about Little Silver. In fact, it had even been Audiobook who had planned Little Silver's secret transportation from Winter City to Songhai City back then. But he had only seen Little Silver in his beast form, and this was his first time seeing him in human form. So when he saw her this time, he was slightly taken aback. He felt that as perhaps the only holy beast left in the world, Little Silver was a lot more lively and cheerful than he had imagined. Furthermore, his human form was a little too beautiful. A fair face, long silver hair, casual clothes and bare feet. In Audiobook's view, he had the potential to be a crossdresser. Master Zhua. Master has waited for you for a long time. Little Silver greeted him and led him inside. He respected Audiobook very much. Back then, when Audiobook had sent him to Songhai City, Little Silver had seen how Audiobook had helped him a lot. And the most important thing was that Audiobook was Master's officially certified personal disciple. So Little Silver felt that calling Audiobook Sherfujua was completely reasonable. Little Silver led Audiobook to the pit which he had smashed with his fist earlier, and Audiobook sucked in a cold breath when he saw it. My God! What was this? Little Silver made an inviting gesture. Master Joie, please come in, this is the Green Channel. Audiobook! What freaking Green Channel? After Audiobook arrived and everyone was in position, Mr. Liu began to explain some of the secrets he and President Bai knew. First of all, Mr. Liu, is there anything else you want to say about exposing that President Bai of the Demon Hunters Association? Audiobook was in charge of the questioning, while Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took notes in a small notebook on the side. Because he was out courting death all year round, Great Death-courting Senior Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a lot of criminal investigation experience, which he had learned from his friends at the police station. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal actually had a lot of friends at the police station, and thanks to Little Silver, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that his relationships with the people at the police station had deepened considerably. Furthermore, he realized that Little Silver was a little toxic, and his biggest characteristic was that whenever he went out, he would definitely be sent to the police station. I want to report him, I want to expose him. I'll tell you everything I know about President Bai's heinous crimes. Sitting obediently on the floor, Mr. Liu explained in detail. This President Bai's full name is Bai Jie. Let me first introduce President Bai's strength. This person is very strong. According to my contact, President Bai's overall battle strength is around true immortal level. And the most important thing is that this person's self-created self-healing technique can be said to be demonic. Furthermore, his physique seems a little special. Self-healing technique. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was blank. That's right, I saw it with my own eyes. Mr. Liu nodded. My tree clan's healing ability is already heaven-defying, but Baijia's self-healing ability is hundreds of times greater than mine. No matter how large a wound is, it can completely heal in the blink of an eye. Can you tell me more specifically what kind of physique it is? Audiobook asked. Baijia's physique is a little special. I really can't explain it. Because I've really never seen or heard of a human with a self-healing ability that far surpasses that of the Tree Clan. And the most important thing is that even if Brother Little Silver can inflict serious injuries, it might not affect this person's self-healing ability. Mr. Liu sighed. All these years, Bai Jie has relied on his self-healing ability and formidable defense to act fearlessly. Coupled with that black magic umbrella that he carries, which can instantly create a barrier and open up space to help him escape from danger, his whereabouts are like that of a ghost or a god, and he's practically invincible. A human cultivator with a self-healing ability that surpassed that of the Tree Clan? Listening on the side, Wang Ling's interest was piqued, but he wasn't the slightest bit perturbed. To be honest, he didn't think that this President Bai could pose any threat to him. And it was very obvious that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Audiobook were thinking the same thing. Their expressions were really too calm. When Mr. Liu finished talking about this scene, he had thought that everyone present would be a little astonished. Speaking up to this point, Little Silver suddenly turned to look at Mr. Liu and asked a very forceful question. I'm very sorry. I would like to ask Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu, please go ahead, Little Silver. Excuse me, this President Bai Jie, if we use mouse pads as the unit of measurement. With all due respect, how many mouse pads does Master need to throw to kill him? Mr. Liu. Chapter 508. Based on Mr. Liu's current understanding of President Bai, he was a person with a very strong self-healing ability, and had created his own self-healing technique. To be honest, even Wang Ling was a little surprised. After all, in terms of self-healing, apart from himself, Wang Ling felt that no one in the human world and the demon world who could surpass the Tree Clan in terms of self-healing abilities could be mentioned in the same breath as them. And the most important thing was that Wang Ling felt that there was actually no one who could hurt him. So the truth was that he hadn't had a chance to use his self-healing ability yet. His primordial chi had a powerful self-healing attribute to begin with, and he could heal even the slightest scratch on his skin at the speed of light. Now that a person with a strong self-healing ability had suddenly popped up, Wang Ling felt that in some sense, this person was also a talent. There was now the old devil the mage, Cheng Yu the master of Immortal Mansion the archer, Evil Sword God the melee expert, and Jiang Luiyue the master of Shadow Stream who had been isolated. Although she wasn't as strong as the others, in any case, she was still an assassin. If this President Bai could be caught and this wet nurse was sent to prison, they would have a complete team battle lineup. Wang Ling sighed deeply in his heart. He actually felt a little tired. He felt that he had already sent a lot of people to prison in less than half a semester, and all of them were big shots. The point was that even so, his life still wasn't peaceful. At that moment, Wang Ling unrealistically thought that if things continued at this rate, Songhai First Prison would be overcrowded by the year he graduated from high school. Right now, it was just a team battle lineup. By the year he graduated, the total number of people he caught would probably be enough to form an army. This President Bai was a little amazing. But he definitely couldn't beat Shifu. But he definitely couldn't beat Wang Ling. After listening to Mr. Lu's explanation, Audiobook and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought it over in their hearts. It was as if they had discussed it beforehand, and they spoke in perfect unison. Audiobook was in charge of the questioning, while Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took notes. This was Mr. Lu's first piece of evidence as the informant, and was also an important reference for his future sentence reduction. Mr. Lu had been instigated by President Bai to do a lot of wrong things over the years. It could be said that he had taken the side of a tyrant and helped President Bai engage in the illegal trade of spirit beasts in secret. There was no way he could escape this. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal would later arrange for Mr. Lu to follow Song Qing-shu to atone for his crimes as a formaldehyde purifier for a period of time. However, a mistake was a mistake. There was no way to escape punishment. The only thing they did was to reduce the punishment. According to the latest anti-spirit killing law, even if it was a lighter punishment, the minimum sentence would still be 5 years. Exoneration is almost impossible. Of course, if Mr. Lu hadn't taken the initiative to confess his crime and become a witness, he might have been convicted as President Bai's accomplice and directly locked up for 200 years. 5 years was neither a long nor a short time, but for the tree tribe, which had a long lifespan, perhaps it was just a snap of Mr. Lu's fingers. Moreover, if they really sent Mr. Lu to prison, Mr. Lu might very well have his sentence reduced because of his outstanding performance in cleaning the prison's air. Audiobook stared at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's notes and wrote down everything Mr. Lu had said word for word. This was the first time he had seen Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's handwriting, and he felt that given the latter's lively and jumpy personality, this handwriting was a little too beautiful. It was said that a person's handwriting was like a person's, but Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's handwriting didn't give off that kind of vivacity at all. Each word was beautiful, neat and dignified, as if it had been printed, and Audiobook was a little dazed when he read it. Looking at the notes, he suddenly noticed a key point in the notes, and he hurriedly raised his head to look at Mr. Lu. Can Mr. Lu explain the origin of that black magic umbrella? Wang Ling and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's expressions also turned slightly serious at this question. The country had always had very strict control over spatial magic treasures. Currently, most of the spatial magic treasures sold in the magic treasure trade market were used for storage. It was impossible for them to have the powerful ability to instantly open a barrier and teleport. But according to Mr. Lu's previous explanation, this black magic umbrella's origin was clearly very unusual. It had the ability to teleport and open up a barrier. Its grade even surpassed that of the purple gold gourd which immortal Zhen Yuan had developed back then. Mr. Lu thought for a bit before saying, although this old man was only helping Bai Zhe hold the umbrella before, this old man has personally felt the power that surged out from it. This umbrella is at the very least a first-class holy weapon, and it's very likely to be a quasi-divine weapon. Its origin is extraordinary. A quasi-divine weapon? Everyone at the scene was slightly taken aback. Divine artifacts were absolutely forbidden. They were existences equivalent to the national treasures of a country. If a country had 1 or 2 divine artifacts, it would already have a considerable deterrent force. It would even have a strong say in the international arena. However, divine weapons couldn't be created. They were special products born of nature. At present, the most powerful magical equipment that could be created by human cultivators that was comparable to divine equipment was the world-defying magical equipment. Quasi-divine weapons, which were inferior to divine weapons, also couldn't be created. But their true power was a notch below that of a divine weapon. Even if they were a notch below a true divine weapon, they were still a lot more powerful than a first-class holy weapon. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal cupped his chin as he pondered. He was the one who had notified everyone on the magic weapon ranking list. If this small black umbrella really was a first-class holy weapon or something close to a quasi-divine weapon, there was no way that it wouldn't be recorded on the international ranking list. This person actually dares to use this kind of strictly restricted magic weapon in public. He's got guts. Sked. Shifu, Senior Immortal and Brother Little Silver, do you have any thoughts on the origin of this black magic umbrella? The truth was that Audhwa really didn't know much about this. After all, his experience was limited, and he had just graduated from university and started working not long ago. Even if he had taken the blame a few times and gained some popularity and prestige, he definitely wasn't as experienced as grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. After all, this great death-courting senior ran such a large cultivation forum and received all kinds of the latest gossip at every moment of the day, so it was only natural that he had a lot of experience. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal crossed his arms and racked his brains for a while. Then, as if remembering something, he abruptly raised his head. It's the Wuxia umbrella. What? Chapter 509. It's the Wuxia umbrella. Tai Chi's Ji. When grenade-throwing Senior Immortal introduced the umbrella's name, Audhwa also had a look of sudden realization on his face. Although he didn't know what on earth this umbrella was, at least the name sounded very awesome. Audhwa remembered seeing a post online by a well-known magic treasure research expert. In this post, he had posted a short excerpt from his thesis. This expert believed that when it came to the life gate of a magic treasure, the fewer and simpler the name, the more powerful it would be. This theory was actually ambiguous, but Audhwa didn't think there was anything wrong with it, because he realized that most of the magic treasures listed on the magic treasure list didn't have more than 3 words. And those with 2 words were even more awesome. For example, Jinka. Those with 1 word were even more awesome. Thinking this, Audhwa couldn't help sneaking a look at his Shifu Wang Ling. Because he realized that Shifu's Taoist name was a single word, Ling. Wuji umbrella? Mr. Lu was also blank when he heard this name. He had read the overall magic treasure ranking list of the human world before. Although Wuxia's culture was extensive and profound, and he actually didn't know enough about it, in some sense, he could even be considered shoddy, he still wouldn't forget the names of magic treasures. In the demon world, a lot of the magic treasure designs were actually copied from the human world, and the magic treasure knockoffs in the demon world were in fact a fairly large industry chain. The humanoid demons who mingled in the human world would do whatever they could to buy the original magic treasures, or use some means to obtain the original blueprints. These original blueprints could be sold for sky-high prices in the demon world. Mr. Lu had deeply believed that this fake Skywalker sword was real, but his original intention had actually been to take it to the demon world and directly sell it. If it was the genuine Skywalker sword, it would be worth at least 2 or 3 times as much if it was sold to a magic treasure knockoff organization in the demon world. Mr. Lu shook his head. This old man has never heard of this magic treasure in the human world. Little Silver was already flipping through his phone on one side. There was an app called Magic Treasure Vault, which contained all the famous magic treasures in the world. The magic treasures were ranked according to their classification, and there was also an overall magic treasure ranking. The origin, grade, and creator of each magic treasure were clearly written in the Magic Treasure Vault, but the specific data of the magic treasure could not be seen. This software was only used to record and rank the rankings. Little Silver typed in the name of the Wuji umbrella and took a look, but in the end, there was no record of it in the magic treasury. I really didn't. Little Silver said. Looks like that post is quite credible. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal Sked. Informant? Wang Ling was blank. Speaking of this, it was back to the mysterious informant on the cultivation forum, whom grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had mentioned before. In that post, the informant had already described in detail the unrest in the demon world, and that there would be a big battle in the near future. In fact, this informant had also revealed some other things in that post. For example, it was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal who had read about the Wuji umbrella in the post. But he remembered that not long after the mysterious informant had posted it, the post had been deleted by a large number of people after it had been questioned by the informant. However, as the highest administrator of the cultivation forum, this was a time when his authority was very useful. It only took a few minutes for him to search through the deleted posts in the background. Very quickly, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal found the informant's post on his computer and flipped to the picture of the Wuji umbrella. Mr. Lu, take a look. Is this the umbrella? Mr. Lu was very excited. Yes. It's this umbrella. Who was the informant? Wang Ling raised his eyebrows and asked. The informant is completely anonymous, there's no way to find him. Furthermore, he seems to have used a fake IP address. This person used the recent events of the Demon Hunters Association to poke fun at how rumors and slanders had led to the extinction of holy beasts, and then mentioned this Wuxia umbrella. Previously, I also thought that this person might be talking nonsense, but now it seems very likely that he is a hidden big boss. Grenade-throwing senior immortal sighed. I actually had Little Black look into it before, but unfortunately, he couldn't find out who this person was at all. Little Silver, then what's the origin of this umbrella? Divine weapons and quasi-divine weapons are born of nature and can't be created. But according to this informant, this Wuxia umbrella is actually a world-defying magic weapon that has been created. Speaking up to this point, Grenade-throwing senior immortal's expression darkened. Furthermore, it was made from the fur of 49 different holy beasts. When he said this, Grenade-throwing senior immortal had already carefully considered his words, because he had taken Little Silver's feelings into consideration. According to the words of the informant in the original post, it was bloody, brutal, and too horrible to look at. It was very obvious that when Little Silver heard this, he was instantly stupefied. Although it had already been a long time since the extinction of holy beasts, hearing all of a sudden that someone had actually used 49 holy beast fur to make a world-defying magic weapon still made Little Silver feel like his brain had short-circuited. 49 different holy beast fur. Back then, the sacred beasts only had 50 clans when they were at their peak. This person had actually collected 49 skins and made them into fur. Little Silver was stunned. No wonder he had smelled a faint spicy smell on Mr. Lu's hand earlier. Because Mr. Lu had come into contact with this small black umbrella. And it was very obvious that this small black umbrella had the fur of Dog Saint, who had been turned into a spicy hot pot stew back then. Looking at Little Silver's expression, Grenade-throwing senior immortal really couldn't bear to go on, but this was important information, and he had to share it. After sorting out his words, Grenade-throwing senior immortal said, according to the informant, this Wuxia umbrella is actually an incomplete product. Actually, it's still missing one holy beast fur before it's completely finished. Ojwa grit his teeth and couldn't help slapping the table. This is simply insane. No wonder this magic treasure wasn't on the magic treasure ranking list. Not only was it a forbidden magic treasure, it was also full of sin. Looking at it now, this Wuxia umbrella was probably created by this president Bai. Even if he didn't personally make it, even if he hired someone to make it, that's still pretty awesome. Grenade-throwing senior immortal sighed. But there's one thing I don't understand. Holy beasts were already extinct long ago, so how could he have collected so many of them? The reason is very simple. At this moment, Mr. Lu suddenly said, previously, I said that I would report Baijia's vile actions. Actually, there is another very important piece of news. When I was working by his side, I accidentally heard news about the extinction of the sacred beasts. If this news is true, then the massacre of the sacred beasts back then was planned by him. Chapter 5:10. There were times when the truth was closer than one could imagine. Even Little Silver himself never thought that the truth he had been searching for so many years would actually be so close to him. It could almost be said to be within reach. So, the source of the rumor that the holy beasts went extinct back then was this President Bai. Ojwa was utterly stunned. Because this was an unsolved case that the country had been investigating until now. After all, the level of science and technology at that time hadn't been as advanced as it was now. The rumor that eating the heart of a holy beast could help one comprehend heavenly Tao had started around 6,000 years ago, even before the founding of Wuxia Nation. Little Silver had only been 2,000 years old at that time, and had still been a very young child among the holy beasts. By the time the country had been founded and the holy beasts had already gone extinct, it was already too late to start investigating. There had been no way to trace the source of the rumor. It was different now. With the development of the internet, cultivators had to be responsible for what they said on online platforms, and anyone who wanted to check it would naturally be able to do so. As for some anonymous users, it wasn't particularly difficult to track them down. As for that informant in the cultivation forum this time, which even Little Black had been unable to find, it was very clear that he knew some secret and had come especially prepared. Although Little Black's skills were slightly inferior to Wang Ming's, it wasn't to the point where he couldn't do this. Sometimes, what was scary was that someone was on guard. In the end, Wang Ling felt that it would be more reliable to ask Wang Ming about it. If even Wang Ming couldn't track down the location of this informant, then there really wasn't anything he could do. If this is true, then I'm afraid that President Bai's crimes are even more serious than those of Cheng Yu, the master of Immortal Mansion, and the old devil. Aj was scared. He hadn't expected to run into such a big fish this time. No wonder it was so hard to catch.
Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal twirled his pen and said, "But Mr. Lu, do you have any substantial evidence for what you're saying?"
That Wuxia umbrella is evidence. Apart from that, Baizha also has a lot of strange magic weapons on him. This old man speculates that these magic weapons may also have been made from holy beasts. If we can take down Baizha, these will all be material evidence. At this point, Mr. Lu had in fact already told Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal what he needed to say. As for how to draw out President Bai, he had already given Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. In fact, even Mr. Lu himself didn't know where on earth President Bai was. Apart from his cell phone, the only way he could contact President Bai was through a silver bell. Furthermore, this President Bai was very cunning. His cell phone number was different every time, and Mr. Lu could only use his cell phone once a day. The next time, the number would be directly changed. Mr. Lu had already used one chance when he was at the door. The new number would only be sent to Mr. Lu's phone at 6 o'clock the next morning. Apart from that, if he wanted to meet the person in person, he would need to use this silver bell. When Mr. Lu gave the silver bell to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, he gave him special instructions. There's a trick to using this silver bell. You need to shake it to a specific tune at a specific location for Baizha to appear. Baizha and I agreed to meet at the Central Park. What melody? Have you heard of the play of strings? Just shake that one. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling. After that, Wang Ling used a small spell to hide Mr. Lu's demon chi to prevent President Bai from tracking him down. Now that Mr. Lu was also an important witness, he needed to be well protected. But it wasn't to lock him up somewhere, as that would make it easier for President Bai to find him. Thus, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had Song Qing-shu take Mr. Lu to inhale formaldehyde. But just in case, Wang Ling still drew up 3 teleportation talismans and gave them to Song Qing-shu. Like the name suggested, these teleportation talismans could quickly teleport Song Qing-shu and Mr. Lu to another location if they sensed danger. The coordinates were set at the Wang family's small villa. If the other party dared to follow them, even if Wang Ling wasn't at home, the gremlins in the villa would be enough to give the invaders a hard time. Furthermore, Jinko was guarding the villa, so Wang Ling didn't have to worry at all. Thank you, Ling Zhenren. At the entrance to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's house, Song Qing-shu respectfully accepted the talismans. Since leaving Mo Immortal Castle, under Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's guidance, Song Qing-shu had become more and more like a steward. Furthermore, it was very clear that he now exuded a righteous and awe-inspiring temperament, and was in fact a talent that could be molded. Song Qing-shu drove the car while Mr. Lu sat in the front passenger seat, not daring to move. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see Wang Ling looking at him. He had really been frightened by that mousepad earlier. Now, he just wanted to quietly be a good tree, and didn't dare act rashly at all. Little Silver stood in front of the door and waved. Good luck, Mr. Lu. I'll definitely do my best to inhale formaldehyde. Mr. Lu looked at Little Silver and gave him a thumbs up with a resolute look in his eyes. Song Qing-shu said goodbye again, then stepped on the accelerator and left with Mr. Lu. But now that Mr. Lu was gone, the rest of the pressure fell on Odd Shua. If they wanted to catch Baizha, these 2 days were actually the golden period. Since Mr. Lu hadn't completed his mission this time, his demon chi had been concealed. Furthermore, Mr. Lu and Baizha had broken off contact, and the longer it took, the more suspicious it would be. Although this President Bai's surname was Bai, he was clearly a very suspicious person. In addition, this person had orchestrated a rumor 6,000 years ago, which had almost wiped out all the holy beasts. In fact, his heart and bones were very black. Then, according to the plan, Brother Silver and I will go and meet this President Bai tonight. Brother Joie will be in charge of pulling in the net, said Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Thank you, Senior Immortal. Odd Joie nodded. It's fine. It's not a big problem. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was very confident. With the soul suppression ring on his finger, he had nothing to fear. As for Little Silver, after eating the crispy noodle snacks, his combat strength had soared, and he could be described as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. If the two of them worked together, Wang Ling felt that their combined combat strength would be more than enough to deal with President Bai. According to Mr. Liu, this President Bai's strength was at true immortal level, but his damage might not necessarily be at that level. The trickiest part was probably that unknown and terrifying self-healing ability. This was what Wang Ling was very curious about. Chapter 5:11. Wang Ling had directly teleported back home. He had locked the bedroom door because he was worried that Mother Wang would suddenly come in and find that he wasn't in the bedroom. Normally, as long as Wang Ling locked the door, Mother Wang wouldn't come in after twisting the doorknob and realizing that the door wouldn't open. In Mother Wang's eyes, Wang Ling had always been a very self-conscious person. Locking the door meant that he was definitely studying and didn't want to be disturbed. So when Wang Ling came back, he felt a little guilty. He had gone to Grenade throwing Senior Immortal's house at noon, and it was already 3:30 by the time he got back. After playing a game with his dog too and taking care of Mr. Liu's matter, he had come back later than he had expected. Wang Ling sighed and suddenly felt a little tired. It just so happened that so many things were happening right before the midterm exams, which made Wang Ling feel overwhelmed. Wang Ling dropped his forehead into his hand. He was just a 16-year-old kid. Life was really too difficult. At that moment, Wang Ling swept his gaze over the garden. This dog too had already returned, and was lying in the garden basking in the sun like a dog with nothing to do, wagging its tail. Although he was very far away, Wang Ling could still see Dog 2's slightly puffed-up green fur. It was very obvious that this guy was 100% aware that Wang Ling was staring at it, so it was a little nervous. After all, Dog 2 had done something shameful behind Wang Ling's back today. So Dog 2's true state now was that while it looked very calm, it was actually panicking like an old dog. Everyone had their privacy, and so did spirit beasts. Actually, Wang Ling didn't want to restrain Loopy Toad too much. Now that they were already family, there was nothing wrong with giving it some space. So Wang Ling was very clear about how to deal with this matter, and he respected Dog 2's decision. Since Dog 2 wanted to deal with the gate between worlds on its own, Wang Ling would let it handle it. Wang Ling could pretend not to know, but he wouldn't pretend not to see it. It was too easy for Wang Ling to secretly give Dog 2 a little help. That was right. When a family got along, they should leave some space for each other. There were some things that could be seen through, but couldn't be exposed. Leaving space was also a way of showing respect. This was the best way Wang Ling could think of to help Dog 2. It would help Dog 2 and also give Dog 2 face. Thinking this, he sat back down at his desk and pretended not to know anything. He turned around and snapped his fingers, and the lock on the bedroom door opened with a click. Now that he was back, there was no need to lock the door. Wang Ling opened the drawer and dug out 3-5 again. He decided to do 3 more exam papers to cover up his guilt today. But as soon as he opened the pile of papers, he couldn't help sneezing. This definitely wasn't a cold. Wang Ling basically wouldn't get sick, because all viruses would be killed by his primordial qi the moment they invaded his body. Thus, his body's normal immune system was always on standby all year round, and was completely useless. Why did he sneeze? Wang Ling found it a little strange. Then, his eyes swept over the table, and he keenly noticed a few very fine strands of green dog fur on the table. They had probably drifted out when he had flipped open 3-5. When Wang Ling had been doing his homework before, Dog 2 had in fact tacitly allowed it to lie on the table and watch him do his homework in order to learn. The dog fur had probably been left behind at that time. But he clearly remembered that Dog 2 hadn't shed before. Maybe it was because it had been cultivating diligently recently, and the pressure had been too great, which was why it had started to shed. All of a sudden, Wang Ling realized that Dog 2 was actually a little pitiful. It had already started to shed its fur, which showed that its cultivation efforts had definitely been extraordinary recently. Given Dog 2's current rank, if it continued to cultivate so diligently, it might go from an Akita to a crested dog. Wang Ling pinched the tuft of green fur and squinted at it. He casually pulled out a tissue from the drawer to wrap the dog fur in it and throw it away. In the end, his hand just happened to slip when he pulled out the tissue, and a few strands of dog fur slipped through his fingers and coincidentally landed on his thigh. Wang Ling frowned and pulled out another tissue to clean up the dog fur on his thigh. What Wang Ling never expected was for Mother Wang to suddenly open the door and come in at that moment. When she entered, She happened to see Wang Ling holding a tissue in one hand and wiping his thigh with the other in a suspicious manner. When Wang Ling turned his head, he was also startled. Ling Ling. Mother Wang didn't get to finish the second half of the sentence. Just the name alone was enough to make her swallow the rest of what she was going to say. It could only be said that Mother Wang was, in the end, Mother Wang. As an older person, what storms hadn't she seen? Mother Wang was already used to this kind of adolescent restlessness. Then Wang Ling saw Mother Wang smile at him before she slowly closed the door. Wang Ling. At a time like this, you absolutely positively shouldn't close the door too hard, because too loud a sound could easily frighten a person, and when a person was frightened, it was very likely that they would suffer from physiological dysfunction. Mother Wang felt that she was very open-minded. Family members should leave some space between each other. Ling Ling has grown up after all. In front of the door, Mother Wang was actually a little relieved. She remembered that Wang Ling had been preparing for his midterm exams recently, so it was normal for him to be stressed. Young people. It was good to let them out. At that moment, Wang Ling clutched a tissue in his hand in his room and almost had the urge to bang his head against the door. If he had known earlier, he would have used the gravitational spell. He would have directly used the gravitational spell to grab dog fur. Where did all this misunderstanding come from? The corners of Wang Ling's mouth couldn't help twitching. In fact, there were times in life when it was convenient to do so, and there was no need to use spells for everything. But Wang Ling hadn't expected Mother Wang to actually come at such a good time. This time, the misunderstanding was really big. But this also showed that the effect of the Great Fortune spell had probably already disappeared. Otherwise this kind of misunderstanding wouldn't have happened. Wang Ling felt that he was a very adaptable person. Since the misunderstanding had already happened, there was no need to continue explaining. Some things the more you explained the worse it got. Gritting his teeth, Wang Ling picked up his pen and started furiously writing 3-5. Then, about half an hour later, Mother Wang came to the door again. This time, she didn't directly enter, but knocked on the door. She reckoned that by this time, Wang Ling was pretty much done with his business. What, Ling Ling? Mother Wang didn't dare open the door directly for fear of running into our 18 again, so she simply said directly at the door, "Your brother is coming tonight, so I've made fish soup and added a kidney. You can eat tonight. Also, pay attention to moderation. Okay?" Wang Ling. Chapter 5:12. Wang Ling wasn't surprised that Wang Ming wanted to come this time. He guessed that it was probably because of the space appraisal results of Taoist Guang's tattered Taoist robe from last week. The tattered Taoist robe contained the primal chaos sword chi of the heaven-cleaving sword which evil sword god had left behind in his pursuit of Taoist Guang, and Wang Ming had used this remnant sword chi to track the space evil sword god had been in. Previously, Taoist Guang had speculated that the entrance to the legendary Immortals Treasure House might be in the space between the gate between worlds, which connected the human world and the demon world. Taoist Guang had called that entrance the inner world. However, this was only a conjecture. Even if there really was an entrance, it wasn't certain that the world was the Immortals Treasure House. 4 venerated immortals, opening up a few worlds was child's play. Thus, Wang Ling couldn't rule out the possibility that Immortal Jin Yuan had opened up many fake worlds to play whack-a-mole as a cover for the real Immortals Treasure House. Now that the Tao Talisman Seal's suppressive effect was weakening, the primordial qi in Wang Ling's body started to gradually adapt to the special substance in the Tao Talisman, and it started to strengthen itself as it condensed something similar to antibodies. Of course, Wang Ming estimated that there were still 5 to 7 years before the Tao Talisman completely lost its effect. That was to say, it would be best if Wang Ling could find a way to control the primordial qi on his own or replace the Tao Talisman seal before he graduated from university. It might seem like he had a lot of time, but whether it was 5 or 7 years, it was just a snap of the fingers for many cultivators. For a seclusion maniac like Patriarch Reliance, the headmaster of Reliance High School during the joint military training exercise for the 6 schools, 5 years of seclusion was like going to the toilet. Although Wang Ling hoped to find some way in the Immortals Treasure House, he wouldn't pin all his hopes on it. When it came down to it, if he could control the primordial qi on his own, that would be for the best. But in the last few years, Wang Ling had noticed that as he grew stronger, the speed at which his realm rose seemed to have gradually accelerated. In the past, he would advance by 1 realm at the age of 2. But recently, He had noticed that his strength seemed to have increased once again. The primordial chi grew and changed along with one's realm. He had to adapt to his realm before he could completely control primordial chi, but the problem now was that he was growing too fast. He didn't even have the chance to adapt. It was just like how some authors were late in updating. It seemed like they would be able to finish it, but it was also possible that they would be late until the next book. In the evening, it was Jia Yin who sent Wang Ming over, and Wang Ling wasn't as resistant to Jia Yin as he had been the previous few times. In fact, Jia Yin was well aware that if she wanted to completely conquer Wang Ming, she would need Wang Ling's help. Therefore, it would be best if he could bribe his brother-in-law. After dealing with Wang Ling earlier, Jia Yin had already thoroughly understood this point. So when she dropped Wang Ming off at the Wang family's house, Jia Yin still had a stern expression on her face, but when she saw Wang Ling open the door, she did her best to soften her expression and smile. Although his smile was very stiff, the corner of Wang Ming's mouth twitched at this scene, and he was as venomous as ever. "You zombie face, stop smiling. Let your hair down and keep that expression on your face, then you can act in Juan." Jia Yin suppressed her anger. She absolutely couldn't lose her composure in front of her brother-in-law. When the two of them entered and changed into slippers, Mother Wang and the old man were almost done cooking. Mother Wang had calculated the time to cook, and when she came out of the kitchen with a plate of stir-fried broccoli, she happened to see Jia Yin and Wang Ming. "You're all here. Quick, sit down." The one vegetable the Wang family's villa didn't lack the least right now was broccoli. Ever since grenade-throwing senior immortal had decided to comprehend heavenly Tao through broccoli, he had devoted himself to cultivating all kinds of broccoli, and would send large quantities to the villa every month. The most frightening thing was, these broccoli had been cultivated with spirit soil. They had a very long shelf life. Even if they weren't stored in the fridge, they wouldn't turn yellow or go moldy even after 2 or 3 years, and would still retain a very high level of moisture and freshness. Putting down the vegetables, Mother Wang habitually wipes the oil stains on her apron. Seeing that Jia Yin was a little restrained, she hurriedly smiled and said, "It's not your first time here, Miss Jia. Don't stand on ceremony, sit down." After several encounters, Mother Wang knew Jia Yin's identity as well as her gender. It wasn't Wang Ming who had said this, but Father Wang had asked an acquaintance and found out. His strongest fan was President Qi's direct superior, who was also his immediate superior. If he wanted to ask anything, he just had to open his fan group and send them a private message. As a writer, you never knew what on earth your fans were for. Actually, Wang Ling felt that Father Wang was also quite gossipy sometimes. Furthermore, it seemed that Father Wang had joined the Wang Ming marriage club in recent years, and had already started to get busy preparing for Wang Ming's marriage. Even Wang Ming himself didn't know about this, and Wang Ling had only inadvertently seen it. Sometimes, Wang Ling carefully recalled Jia Yin's background. How many cultivators dreamed of being an administrator of Magnificent Immortal's depository of Buddhist texts? Furthermore, Wang Ling had heard that these administrators were contracted for a certain period of time, and couldn't resign without permission. But Jia Yin had been transferred to the Cultivation Academy of Science to become Reed's personal bodyguard. Reed equals scientist. Wang Ming had told Wang Ling before that it was President Qi who had used his connections to transfer her. But Wang Ling somehow felt that the truth wasn't that simple. It wasn't impossible that Father Wang was adding fuel to the fire behind the scenes. Wang Ling casually chose a seat, and then saw Jia Yin actually directly pull out the chair next to him and sit down next to him. Wang Ling. Wang Ming smiled at this scene. "Well, this is Dog 2's seat." Jia Yin. Jia Yin's original intention had just been to get closer to Wang Ling. To be precise, this was Jia Yin's first time eating here, so she had no idea that this seat was Loopy Toad's. Seeing that Jia Yin wasn't moving, Wang Ming was startled. "It's that dog who was lying at the door when we came in earlier. You're even going to steal a dog's seat." The corner of Jia Yin's mouth twitched violently, and she suppressed her irritation as she changed seats. This time, she directly chose to sit next to Wang Ming. Wang Ming shook his head. "This is Grandpa's seat." Jia Yin jumped up from her chair and moved to the side, separating herself from Wang Ming by an empty chair. Wang Ming said again, No, this is my aunt's seat." Wang Ling. Now Wang Ling could completely tell that Wang Ming was deliberately looking for trouble. Jia Yin couldn't take it anymore, and she directly stretched out one hand to tug at Wang Ming's collar. Wang Ming was alarmed. What are you doing? But he couldn't break free at all. Of course, Jia Yin wasn't going to hit him, and just reached out to undo the button on his chest. Then, Wang Ling almost spat out water when he saw that there was actually a tattoo on Wang Ming's chest. And it was a tattoo of a well-known anime character. Furthermore, this tattoo could only be seen by cultivators, and an ordinary person like Wang Ming who couldn't use spirit energy at all wouldn't be able to see it. It was very obvious that this was Jia Yin's revenge. She had probably secretly imprinted it on Wang Ming's chest while he was asleep. Wang Ming didn't understand, but he seemed to have guessed something as he turned his head to stare at Jia Yin. What did you draw on my chest? This was too humiliating. Furthermore, it was in front of Wang Ling. Wang Ming was a little regretful. He had thought that Jia Yin wouldn't do anything to him in front of Wang Ling, and had just been joking. He hadn't thought that it would turn into mutual harm. Then, Wang Ling flicked out spirit energy from his fingertips and attached it to Wang Ming's eyes. Wang Ming turned pale with fright when he saw what was tattooed on his chest. Damn! Peppa Pig! Clap, clap, clap. At that moment, Wang Ling started to clap with a calm expression on his face. What was the saying? Peppa Pig tattoo. Applause for society. Chapter 5:13. Basically, if Wang Ming wanted to go out, he had to report it and get Old Chi's approval. Wang Ming had actually already broken the rules when he had taken the heavenly materials sword to catch Xiao Yunqing last time. But in the end, President Qi had still suppressed the matter and really doted on Wang Ming like his own grandson. There were actually a lot of young genius scientists in the courtyard. In the eyes of many people in the outside world, this group of people were lofty geniuses, pillars of the nation, and each of them was unruly and unruly. However, compared with Wang Ming's group of people, this group of people was still a little less intelligent. When there was comparison, there was naturally envy, and envy there was naturally jealousy. Wang Ming was indeed a little laid back usually, and had inadvertently provoked a lot of people. These people had done everything they could to complain about him, but Old Qi had blocked them all. The more President Qi protected Wang Ming, the more jealous they became. Why did President Qi go through so much trouble to find an expert to protect Wang Ming? He was afraid that some of the other scientists in the courtyard would go crazy and try to kill Wang Ming one day. Wang Ming's safety was the first priority. It wasn't enough to protect him outside. He had to be protected inside. But Wang Ming had always been a bully inside. Actually, now that Jia Yin was here, Wang Ming's behavior was indeed a lot more restrained than before. The Cultivation Academy of Science's rules weren't at all relaxed than those of the military, and were basically militarized. There actually weren't many restrictions on Wang Ming, and the only restriction was that he wasn't allowed to go out on his own. Even if he reported that he wanted to go somewhere else, it might not be approved. The Wang family's small villa was the only exception, because Father Wang had used his fan group to let the higher-ups know. At the very beginning, because Wang Ling didn't know Jia Yin's identity, his attitude toward her had been a little cold. But after carefully analyzing the pros and cons of Jia Yin coming to Wang Ming's side, Wang Ling instantly felt that President Qi's decision was the right one. Given Wang Ming's usually venomous tongue, everyone around him would definitely have a negative mood value of plus 999 after this verbal attack. If this situation continued to develop, something like poisoning his own colleague to death might really happen. On one hand, Jia Yin could restrict Wang Ming from doing whatever he wanted, and on the other hand, indirectly protect him. Because apart from his brain, Wang Ming was a muggle who really didn't know how to use spirit energy at all. An ordinary person's poison could easily kill him. Of course, even if Wang Ming was poisoned to death, he also had a way to bring Wang Ming back to life. A few hours ago, when they had been playing PUBG with Taoist Guang, Wang Ling had also learned the reincarnation of heavenly life move that Wang Ming had used in the software. But Wang Ling's reincarnation innate life was truly reincarnation innate life. It was just that if he used this move, not only would Wang Ming's identity be made public, it was very likely that he would also be exposed. Thinking this, Wang Ling cupped his chin in thought. He felt that it was time to give this thing a magic treasure with a resurrection attribute like grenade-throwing senior immortals, soul suppression ring. Of course, this was actually a little difficult to do, because the soul suppression ring needed spirit energy to activate, and artificial spirit energy wouldn't work. Thus, Wang Ling had to get a resurrection magic treasure that didn't require spirit energy to activate itself. Even if Zhai Yin was Wang Ming's personal bodyguard, she couldn't always be by his side. Preparing for the worst, Wang Ling felt that it was better to play it safe. Wang Ling raised his eyes and looked at the calendar hanging behind the door. Wang Ming's birthday was August 1st, Army Day. There was still more than half a month to go, so he had plenty of time to prepare. When it came to Zhai Yin, it was very clear that Wang Ming was full of resentment. Wang Ming didn't stand on ceremony. Hugging Wang Ling's pillow, he lay on his stomach on the bed and stretched out his miserable hand toward the ceiling like a vulnerable person. Ling, you don't know how scary that woman is. Wang Ling could tell that this guy hadn't come to share the appraisal results at all, but mainly to complain. Sharing the appraisal results in the space was just something he had done in passing. Speaking up to this point, Wang Ming's face was full of resentment. When I drink water, she has to take a sip first, to make sure it's not poisonous before she lets me drink it. Wang Ling. Lying on the floor, Loopy Toad raised its dog head. It felt that Wang Ming's current expression was that of a resentful woman who had just been abused. That's not all. Wang Ming suddenly straightened up and dropped his forehead into his hand. When I go to the toilet, she has to sit on it first. Wang Ling. Loopy Toad. Also, do you know what's the scariest thing? This guy has actually been learning how to cook recently. He even bought a dragon pig the day before yesterday, and insisted on making me a fried pork chop. Dragon pig? She's pretty good to you. Loopy Toad sked. The price of the fattest dragon pig on the market now soared to 500 immortal gold bars per catty, and ordinary people couldn't afford it at all. Having said that, Loopy Toad was no longer interested in meat. It had been a long time since it left the demon world, and it had the fly-flavored dog food that Dopigua's family provided it regularly. Of course, the taste of the dog food was synthetic and not real flies, so when Loopy Toad ate them now, it tasted weird. She's pretty good to me? The corner of Wang Ming's mouth twitched. Have you ever eaten a black pork chop? Also, that pork chop is as big as a wash basin when fried. That's not right. Shouldn't everyone in Magnificent Immortal be talented? Hearing this, Loopy Toad was also blank. Basically, everyone here is an all-rounder. How can their cooking skills be so bad? Wang Ming. Nonsense. Because in the army, they eat it raw. Loopy Toad. Wang Ling. I haven't been poisoned to death, but I'm about to be eaten to death by her cooking. Wang Ming heaved a deep sigh. I heard that her cooking teacher is an experienced chef. Who? I don't know, I only heard that the name has the character Wan in it. Wang Ling. Wan. He just happened to know a chef with the surname Wan. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? But if Mother Wan really was Zhai Yin's Shifu, Zhai Yin's cooking could definitely poison Wang Ming to death on the spot. Wang Ling sucked in a cold breath. It looked like he had to think of a way to make a resurrection prop for Wang Ming as soon as possible. Now, Wang Ling already felt that Wang Ming's life was in grave danger. Lingzi, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Seeing Wang Ling's pale face, Wang Ming couldn't help chuckling. Auntie just told me. What did you secretly do today? Wang Ling. It's fine, it's fine. Elder brother won't laugh at you. Young people, just pay attention to moderation. Unsurprised, Wang Ming smiled. It's probably inconvenient to use this paper, right? Actually, I've invented a new kind of paper that hasn't been patented yet. This paper is lubricated, dries quickly, and doesn't stick to your hands. One piece of paper can be used repeatedly. It also has a self-cleaning function and is 100% germ-free. Wang Ling. HM. Chapter 5:14. Of course, even though he said that, Wang Ming was just teasing him. He knew that Wang Ling wouldn't do such a thing. Ever since he was young, this little brother of his had always had an ascetic face, and didn't look like a hot-blooded young man at all. As for why this was the case, it actually had something to do with the primordial qi inside Wang Ling's body. Wang Ming had extracted Wang Ling's primordial qi before, and it was really very powerful. Furthermore, it had an extremely formidable self-healing and mind-clearing ability. In addition to purifying the body's toxins and making it immune to all poisons, it also had the effect of purifying one's emotions. Actually, this was also why Wang Ling usually didn't show his emotions on his face. Because there were many times when Wang Ling's emotions were about to change, the primordial qi's self-purification ability would already take effect. Being too excited, too angry, too sad, or too happy wouldn't do. The primordial qi would help Wang Ling control his emotions. From a scientific point of view, people who learned to control their emotions generally had a higher EQ, a longer lifespan, and a healthier body. But the problem was that because the primordial qi was really too powerful, it was a little too much control. Thus, Wang Ling's facial paralysis really couldn't be blamed entirely. There were times when the desire to bare his teeth and smile could be suppressed by the primordial qi, which was actually quite stifling. There were times when Wang Ming really wanted to see what Wang Ling looked like when he smiled. Although the corners of Wang Ling's mouth could be adjusted with current Photoshop technology, that fake smile looked fake no matter how you looked at it. All these years, Wang Ming had relied on the Wang Ling matter he had extracted to develop talismans to suppress Wang Ling's primordial qi. But at the same time, he had also been researching Wang Ling's primordial qi. In the end, using the Wang Ling matter was just a temporary solution. If he wanted to cure Wang Ling, it would be best if he could make a breakthrough in his research on the primordial qi. Unfortunately, even Wang Ming hadn't made any substantial progress in the study of the primordial qi so far. Speaking up to this point, Wang Ming's arms suddenly tightened around the pillow in his hands, and his tone became serious. Lingzi, I've been helping you study primordial qi for the last few years, but from the analysis magic artifacts in the lab, there isn't a single machine that can thoroughly analyze your primordial qi. Study the original vital qi? This was the first time that Buttface had heard of this. He shook his head immediately. Because it was really not easy to study this thing. Wang Ling's head jerked up at these words, and his entire body froze. He had actually known about studying primordial qi a long time ago. To be exact, when he was 6 years old, Wang Ming had extracted a part of his primordial qi in an attempt to study it. Actually, from the very beginning, Wang Ling had felt that current scientific equipment wouldn't be able to analyze it at all, and the fact was that this was indeed the case. In the first few years, Wang Ming had invested a lot of energy into the study of primordial qi, and would immediately text Wang Ling to let him know if he made even the slightest discovery. Later, the number of messages decreased until there was none. Wang Ling had always thought that Wang Ming had given up. After all, for such a proud scientist, who was known as the strongest brain, to be unable to make a breakthrough after years of continuous research should be quite a blow to his self-esteem. But Wang Ling hadn't expected that after 10 years. Wang Ming actually still hadn't given up. Wang Ling opened his mouth to say thank you, but then felt that it was a little mushy, and also a little too distant. These two cousins sometimes hated each other, and even teased each other, but the affection between them was real. The fact that Wang Ming could roll around freely on the bed was the best proof of this. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had even traded crispy noodle snacks for the right to lie on the bed. But brothers were brothers in the end. Although Wang Ling didn't say it, Wang Ming still weighed a lot in his heart. On Wang Ming's birthday on August 1st, Wang Ling had to design a good present for him. At that moment, Wang Ling had already made up his mind. Although Wang Ling didn't say anything, the truth was that Wang Ming didn't need him to answer. Nothing needed to be said about the matters between brothers. It was just that Wang Ling wasn't an adult yet and couldn't drink. Otherwise Wang Ming felt that he and Wang Ling could drink by the truckload. In the truckload, one bottle was his, and the rest were Wang Ling's. Primordial qi is a special kind of spirit energy that Little Master's body produces on its own, or rather, it's a more advanced kind of spirit energy. It's tens of thousands of times denser than spirit energy, and its composition is very complicated. Loopy Toad said. Actually, this was all Loopy Toad knew about primordial qi. The biggest reason why Little Master Ling was able to slap evil sword gods so miserably with one slap was the primordial qi. Spirit energy was like a cultivator's explosive energy source. A normal cultivator used spirit energy to drive it. But Wang Ling used spirit energy mixed with primordial qi to drive it. It didn't sound like much of a difference since they were both energy sources, but there were good and bad sources. How could gasoline and nuclear power be the same? Furthermore, this was just spirit energy mixed with primordial qi, and it had already slapped evil sword gods so miserably. If the talisman was undone and the primordial qi was used instead of spirit energy to slap evil sword god, he would be directly destroyed in both body and soul. Soon. Wang Ming pursed his lips, then his face tightened as he said very seriously, I'll definitely research it. A magic treasure that can analyze primordial qi. In Loopy Toad's view, It actually felt that the reason Wang Ming hadn't made any progress so far was probably because he wasn't a cultivator. The spirit energy that Wang Ming was releasing now was artificial spirit energy that was released by a magic treasure. Although he could learn the routes and meridian diagrams of spirit energy output from reading theoretical knowledge, Wang Ming wasn't a real cultivator, and there were a lot of things that he would only understand after experiencing them for himself. Primordial Qi was clearly a higher level than spirit energy, and could be called a cultivator's energy source for magic. In the last few years, the theory of spirit energy annihilation had been in vogue, and many true immortal almighties had already said that the spirit Qi in the world would be exhausted one day. Perhaps at that time, the primordial Qi in Wang Ling's body would become the last energy source for magic. The significance of this research was actually very great. If Wang Ming could analyze the composition of primordial Qi, not only would he be able to save Wang Ling and the world, he would also be forever recorded in the book of world cultivation history because of this major discovery. He would become the greatest discoverer, explorer and scientist of this era. He would be remembered forever. Loopy Toad suddenly had an idea. At that time, if Wang Ming passed away, it would definitely be a spectacular scene. Chapter 5:15. It was good to be ambitious, but sometimes it was very difficult to realize one's ideals. Loopy Toad felt that these two brothers shared the same core ideals. One was to thoroughly study the composition of primordial Qi. The other was to work hard to control primordial Qi on its own. The core of these two things was the same, and they had the same characteristic, which was that it wasn't easy to realize. Back to business. Wang Ming used artificial spirit energy to activate the space in his energy storage ring and took out the appraisal report from the research institute. He made 2 copies and directly gave one to Wang Ling. Loopy Toad jumped onto the table and stuck its head over to look at it with Wang Ling. Wang Ling didn't mind, and just paid attention to see if any fur had fallen off Dog 2's body. Today's misunderstanding was too big, and it had already cast a small psychological shadow on Wang Ling. That was because he knew Mother Wang too well. She was a pretty economical housewife who would spend what she had to, but never extravagantly. But given Mother Wang's misunderstanding of him today, Wang Ling felt that when she went to the supermarket next, she would probably buy a pile of toilet paper. What's this? Code. I don't understand it. Loopy Toad stared blankly at the appraisal report. The only thing it could understand was that it looked like a map, and the key thing was that it was marked with all kinds of coordinates as well as latitude and longitude lines. Loopy Toad didn't even fully understand language, let alone astronomy and geography. It had only been a few months since it had officially come into contact with human culture, and honestly speaking, it still lacked a lot of things. This was measured by a machine. Of course you won't understand it. As long as you can understand the map, that's enough. I filled in the coordinates based on the code and checked them 3 times. There's no mistake, Wang Ming explained. The code was in fact the result of the machine's reverse calculation of the tattered Taoist robe spatial location, but it needed to be calculated to get the correct coordinates. Because the gate between worlds has come to Wuxia many times before, the Academy of Sciences is very clear about the gate. Furthermore, there have been a lot of cultivators who were spat out by the gate these days, or who were lucky enough to walk out by accident. I've also checked their accounts. Combining the information I have, the oral accounts of cultivators, and the maps of the demon realm provided by some treasure map merchants, Wang Ming cupped his chin in his hand and said, Our current coordinates are indeed from the gate between worlds, but they're not in the demon world. Apart from being able to trace the location of the sword Qi, this space detector could also radiate out the approximate size of the map. Usually, the error was less than 10%. Therefore, from the length of this map, this place is not the demon realm at all. Loopy Toad and Wang Ling's eyes couldn't help twitching at this deduction. Wang Ling lowered his head in thought as he stared at the map. It seemed that Taoist Guang's deduction was completely correct. There was indeed a link between the gate between worlds and the demon realm, and the location of this space was in the middle of this link. As for why there were so many different coordinates on the map, the answer was also very obvious. That was because there wasn't just one space in this transmission link. There were also a lot of fake spaces that Immortal Jin Yuan had created. If Wang Ling was a little more sophisticated, he even felt that none of the spaces in this link might be an Immortal's treasure house. But the problem was that he would only know if it was the Immortal's treasure house when he went there. In Loopy Toad's view, this was actually a little difficult. Currently, the gate between worlds was the only way to get from the human world to the demon world. No matter how capable its little master Ling was, There was no way he could instantly create such a massive world-defying portal. The structure of the gate between worlds was clearly a lot more complicated than that of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's soul suppression ring. The ring was small, so it was easy to refine a top-grade item. But the gate between worlds was a huge project. When Taoist Guang had transferred Immortal Jinyuan's blueprint to Loopy Toad had already seen how complicated it was. In any case, given its current cultivation speed, Loopy Toad felt that even if it could refine weapons, it would never be able to create such a terrifying thing in its lifetime. A world-defying magic weapon wasn't something that could be refined with a certain realm. Most of the time, the creation of a world-defying magic weapon actually depended on luck. Loopy Toad actually didn't really believe in luck, but Little Masterling's Great Fortune spell really did exist. In the 2 months it had been studying the human cultivator language, Loopy Toad had even seen a thesis on luck, which stated that many of the almighties in high positions were in fact born with good fortune, which was why they were able to reach their current realms. So to Loopy Toad's knowledge, this Immortal Jinyuan was actually also an evildoer. There's a lot of code in here, but most of it is space coordinates. Wang Ming crossed his arms as he sat on the bed with a pensive expression on his face. A mysterious expression on his face. But I found a very interesting code inside. It doesn't represent coordinates, but information. Wang Ling raised his head. On the table, Dog 2 couldn't help asking, "What information?" Wang Ming smiled. That space machine can track sword chi, and it has the ability to detect its surroundings. Among the vast amount of codes, this is the only one that interests me the most. It represents information about an unknown energy body. When Wang Ming said this, Wang Ling's pupils contracted slightly. It was as if he could already guess what Wang Ming was going to say next. Wang Ming's lips curled up as he said, "According to the space machine's detection, after I completely deciphered the information about the energy body through the code, I found that the material structure of this energy body is very similar to your primordial chi source." What the hell? Loopy Toad was startled. How could there be Little Master's primordial chi in that place? Although I haven't collected it on the spot for comparison, the probability of this is as high as 70%. This is my own speculation. Wang Ming said, assuming that primordial chi really exists in that space, it can prove 2 things. 1. Primordial chi isn't something unique to Ling Ling. It's very likely that it already exists, but hasn't appeared in the human world. 2. This is also the more likely explanation. After reaching a certain realm, a cultivator's spirit energy source will change, and it will produce primordial chi in the body to replace spirit energy as the driving force. Both Wang Ling and Loopy Toad were at a loss for words at this explanation. Primordial chi can be produced on its own? Loopy Toad was puzzled. A cultivator's spirit energy was formed by absorbing the spirit chi of heaven and earth in their environment and storing it in their dantian. My guess is that after reaching a certain realm, these almighties are already strong enough to extract energy from their bodies and no longer need to rely on spirit energy. This should be related to cytology. When Wang Ling and Loopy Toad heard this, the corners of their eyes couldn't help twitching. Extracting energy from cells. Chapter 5:16. Of course, this was just Wang Ming's one-sided guess without any evidence. But scientists nowadays like to speak with data. Theoretical science was also a kind of science, and Wang Ming's theories were usually very accurate. Primordial chi had been in Wang Ling's body since he was a child. He only knew what it was called, but didn't know what it was. Furthermore, there was another very important point. If Wang Ming's theory was correct, primordial chi really needed to reach a certain realm before it could be produced in a cultivator's body. This was the only thing he could think of to refute Wang Ming's point of view at the moment. Wang Ling was indeed very strong, but his true realm might not necessarily be as high as Immortal Jinyuan's. Based on his current cultivation speed, which was getting shorter by the day, Wang Ling estimated that he would only be able to reach venerated Immortal Realm in the second half of this year at the earliest. His current realm was no longer like when he was a child, where he would automatically advance by 1 level every 2 years. The interval between each advancement was getting shorter and shorter. So from the very beginning, he had felt that his current situation couldn't be explained by science alone. Most of the time, he didn't even care how high his realm was. In any case, there was no one in the world who could withstand a slap from him with all his might. Last time, Evil Sword God had already been beaten half to death with just the talisman seal on him. At that time, Wang Ling had thought that with the talisman seal on him, his chances of winning against Evil Sword God would at least be 50-50. Of course, what kind of person was Wang Ming? Whatever Wang Ling could think of, Wang Ming could naturally also think of. Perhaps your situation is different from my current analysis. Wang Ming rubbed his head and laughed. Actually, I think I'm talking nonsense. In your case, how can you use normal theoretical knowledge to think? My analysis just now is that after a cultivator reaches a certain level, he can rely on his physical body to condense energy. Actually, this is different from you. You were born with full automatic production. Loopy Toad couldn't help laughing. Wang Ling was also speechless. Because they had to admit that Wang Ming's description was indeed quite vivid. But it's fine. It would be best if he could collect that energy source. This way there would be a comparison. Perhaps that thing isn't primordial true qi. Perhaps it's just an unknown energy that's similar to your primordial true qi. Speaking up to this point, Wang Ming used artificial spirit energy to take out a purple-black spherical container from the ring. Loopy Toad. What is this? Wang Ming. It's an energy collector that hasn't been made public. I made it yesterday. Wang Ling. Loopy Toad. How many more inventions do you have that you haven't made public? Previously, there was the anti-occupancy toilet, and just now, there was the smart toilet paper. Now there was the collector. I have a lot of inventions, but I don't like the hassle of applying for patents, so I might as well use them myself. In any case, my identity is also a secret. Even if it is announced, it will be announced in the official capacity of the Academy of Sciences. What a waste. Wang Ming spread his hands. Also, if we really make it public, that bunch of jealous people in the institute will gossip behind our backs again. Wang Ling nodded in agreement with Wang Ming's words. But he felt that given Wang Ming's temperament, whenever he had a new invention, he wouldn't be able to resist showing it off in the circle. He had been a lot more low-key in the last few months. Wang Ling felt that this was probably thanks to Zhai Yin's training. Actually, there have been a lot of models before, but this is the newest one. It can collect all the unknown energy in the coordinates. Known energy has data inside it, so it won't be absorbed repeatedly. If there are multiple strands of unknown energy, the collector will separate them on its own. Awesome, big bro. Loopy Toad couldn't help clapping its paws. But how do I use this thing? Wang Ming. Have you played with Pokemon before? Just use it how you use the Pokemon ball. Wang Ling and Loopy Toad. You want to go by yourself? Wang Ling raised his eyebrows and asked telepathically. How could I go by myself? Do you think I'm stupid? Wang Ming immediately waved his hand. Although I do dream of being a hero sometimes, I'm not courting death to that extent. The link between the gate between worlds and the demon world should be a chaotic space, right? If I go in, I'll immediately break down into popping candy. Saying this, Wang Ming stuffed the round collector into Wang Ling's hand. You'll have to do it. How long? Asked Wang Ling. Loopy Toad almost jumped in fright at Wang Ling's words. Holy shit! Little Master Ling actually spoke. Of course, the sooner the better. Wang Ming crossed his arms as he sat on the bed and smiled at Wang Ling. Actually, this is the main reason why I'm here this time. Wang Ming had actually been very excited when he had analyzed this ball of energy that was suspected to be Wang Ling's primordial qi. After years of stagnant research, he had now finally found a clue. Only a scientist could understand this kind of excitement. Furthermore, there was actually a very important point. Because Wang Ming had been going out more frequently recently, some people at the research institute had already started to talk about him. A lot of them were now smart enough not to report him to Old Qi, but to directly report him to Jinghua City. Thus, President Qi had suggested that Wang Ming lay low for a while, and Wang Ming had accepted it for the sake of the bigger picture. Thus, Wang Ming wouldn't be leaving the research institute in the short term. Thus, Wang Ming simply wanted to take advantage of today's opportunity to get things done. Okay, give me half an hour. Wang Ling nodded. Loopy Toad was startled again when he opened his mouth. Holy shit! Little Master Ling had actually spoken a second time today. Loopy Toad had a vague feeling that Wang Ling was going to break a record today. But very quickly, Dog 2 couldn't help grumbling in its heart. Half an hour? Wasn't that space in the transmission link between the gate between worlds and the demon world? Without the gate between worlds now, how were they going to get there? Seeing Wang Ling get up from his chair, Loopy Toad also jumped down from the desk. One man and one dog went directly to the bathroom in the bedroom. At that moment, Loopy Toad finally reacted. There was still Lord Ma. Toilet Lord Ma. Loopy Toad had used Lord Ma to flush away 2 hired cultivators from Mo Immortal Castle, who had tried to spy on the Wang family. Who knew where Lord Ma had flushed them off to? Lord Ma has the ability to transmit? Loopy Toad was stupefied. You've been here for so long, don't you know? Wang Ming shrugged his shoulders and said, unsurprised, if you don't have a designated space, you just need to rush to a random place. If you have a designated space, you can go anywhere. If you want to come back, you just need to dodge 3 times. Hearing Wang Ming's words, Loopy Toad suddenly had a little idea. Loopy Toad had actually been looking for a way to get to the gate between worlds previously. It had worked so hard to save money during this period in order to buy the materials to set up a transmission array to return to its clan. Only the successive leaders of the sky-swallowing Toad clan knew about this array. However, the 10,000 yuan it had conned from Little Silver was actually far from enough to set up this transmission array. At that moment, Dog 2 stared at the toilet and heaved a huge sigh of relief. Chapter 5:17. In fact, Wang Ling was well aware of Loopy Toad's thoughts. Why did Wang Ming know how to use Lord Ma in such detail? The reason was very simple. In fact, Wang Ling and Wang Ming had colluded with each other. When Wang Ming had first arrived at the villa, Loopy Toad had still been lying outside the villa, so Wang Ling had directly told Wang Ming the ins and outs of the matter telepathically. Why did Wang Ming have to explain it? Because it looked more natural this way, and Loopy Toad wouldn't easily suspect him. On the other hand, Wang Ling had also asked Wang Ming to secretly hack into Loopy Toad's account and check its recent online transactions. He confirmed 2 things. 1. Loopy Toad's recent money had indeed been swindled out of Little Silver. 2. Loopy Toad's purpose in swindling money was to complete a teleportation array, which could be seen from the materials Dog 2 had bought. Wang Ling had never seen this array before, but he could guess that it was similar to a return to the city array. Because the structure of the array was similar, the materials needed were roughly the same, and roughly 60 to 70% the same. The most important thing was that the money Dog 2 had was far from enough to complete this return to the city array. It couldn't even buy 30 to 40% of the materials with its current money. In addition, it was actually very risky for Loopy Toad to go back like this. Wang Ling had modified its source. It no longer used demon chi, but spirit energy. If it used pure spirit energy to activate the demon race's array, it might not succeed, and there was a high chance that it would reject it. Thus, after considering all this, Wang Ling felt that having Loopy Toad use Lord Ma to return to the clan was the best and safest method. Furthermore, he had already done something to Lord Ma. The moment Loopy Toad was teleported over, he would secretly add a buff to ensure that Dog 2's return to the clan would be safe and smooth. Although Wang Ling didn't know what on earth had happened to the sky-swallowing Toad clan, this buff was already enough to help Loopy Toad realize its wretched ambitions in the demon world. Lord Ma was usually in a deep slumber, and usually needed a shower to wake him up before he was activated. In fact, Loopy Toad remembered that it had never seen Lord Ma completely transform into a human. Lord Ma was probably the only gremlin in the villa who didn't have a human form. Previously, when all the monsters in the villa were sitting together, Loopy Toad had heard from Eraser and Pen that it was because Lord Ma's human form was too disgusting with water flowing out of his 7 orifices. After that, Little Master Ling cancelled the transformation. So how was he supposed to go after waking Lord Ma up? While Loopy Toad was feeling puzzled, Lord Ma's voice rang out, echoing faintly. The toilet lid on Lord Ma's body opened by itself, and a voice came from inside. I am the one who serves the Supreme Sovereign, Loopy Toad. So F*** King Chunibu. This voice made Wang Ling sweat a little. When he had enlightened the gremlins back then, he hadn't set up their personalities because he wanted to ensure that each gremlin had multiple personalities. Thus, when he enlightened them, he had opened up their personalities. Then, Lord Ma became like this. The way the coordinates were transmitted wasn't as complicated or dirty as Loopy Toad had imagined. There was no need to stick one's head inside Lord Ma. After Wang Ling silently recited the coordinates,
Loopy Toad saw Lord Ma emit a light which enveloped Little Master Ling. Wang Ling glanced at Loopy Toad at his feet, and the light which had already enveloped Wang Ling instantly split off to envelop Dog 2 as well.
Loopy Toad hadn't expected Wang Ling to take it with him at all. By the time it reacted, Wang Ming saw one person and one dog instantly vanish on the spot like a bolt of lightning. Why take Loopy Toad with them?
Because it was the first time they had used Lord Ma to transmit, and there was a chance that they would experience a stress reaction, and there was a high chance that they would vomit.
So Wang Ling wanted Dog 2 to get used to it first. Wang Ling felt that he was also worried to death for his dog too. About a quarter of an hour earlier, even the clouds in the dark gray world that Evil Sword God had visited before were dark gray. This world was like a newly born planet with jagged rocks of grotesque shapes. There were no living creatures, and the oxygen was very thin. It was completely different from Earth's. Even the gravity was different. A red-haired young man in a black cloak stood alone on a parched and cracked land. His eyes were closed as he gazed at the sky and felt the slightest fluctuation in this world. This was a planet he had moved here from outside the Milky Way. It was completely empty without any living creatures, not even a blade of grass or a flower. The red-haired young man had a Taoist mark in the shape of a flower between his eyebrows. Upon closer inspection, the flower looked a little like the Yuan character.
Standing on the ground, the young man had already deduced that someone would come today, and that it would be an almighty.
A moment later, a strong wind blew in his face, and an incorporeal figure appeared in front of him. It was like a wind spirit, and only its silhouette could be seen. The newcomer's voice changed, and countless ripples instantly surged in this world. Zhen Yuan. The human world is destined to walk the path of annihilation. The savior you seek doesn't exist. You and I should go hand in hand to start a new life outside the Milky Way and become the creator of the world. Perhaps. Immortal Zhen Yuan opened his eyes and said slowly, I once did everything I could to search for him, but in the end, I found nothing. Unfortunately, just as I was about to give up, I felt that perhaps such a person really did exist. Because the gate between worlds was forcibly closed last time?
The wind spirit man waved his hand.
That was just a coincidence. Maybe there was a problem with the summoning array. The gate between worlds is a world-defying magic artifact. Unless all the true immortals in Wuxia Nation use their full strength, they won't be able to close it. Furthermore, when that time comes, their vitality is bound to be greatly damaged. Speaking up to this point, the wind spirit man laughed. You don't really think that the gate was closed by someone, do you? You and I can sense any fluctuations in realm in that world. Apart from you and me, there are no other venerated immortals in this world. You're right, there might not be any venerated immortals, the red-haired young man sighed. But, actually, he had always felt that there should be existences in this world that were more powerful than them. You and I have already used facts to prove that after entering the spirit energy information era, venerated immortals are already the pinnacle of cultivation, the wind spirit man mused. I'm not familiar with you, don't use the words you and I. It'll cause a misunderstanding. The red-haired young man raised his head and looked at the indistinct wind spirit man in front of him. Sooner or later, I'll destroy you. Destroy me? The wind spirit man sneered. You and I are of the same origin. Back then, you abandoned me in order to expel your inner demon. If I commit suicide or am killed by someone else, your cultivation will be greatly damaged, unless you can destroy me with your own hands. But you and I are equal in strength. I won't die at all. You devil spirit, you're willing to commit suicide. Immortal Zhen Yuan chuckled. I've already decided to wait here. When the savior arrives, he will definitely save the world. Even if the one who comes is Brother Echo? The wind spirit man sneered. Chapter 5:18. At the thought of Evil Sword God, Immortal Zhen Yuan felt an intense stabbing pain in his heart, as if his intelligence had been insulted. The most important thing was that this Brother Echo nickname was extremely demonic, and Immortal Zhen Yuan couldn't help thinking of the song SpongeBob SquarePants, which made him shake his head and shake his legs like a bunch of idiots who did social shake. His immortal image was ruined. He had done a divination, and it told him that an almighty was bound to descend on this world before long. So he had been waiting all this time. But he never expected that not only would he not see an almighty, he would instead see a reckless fool. That person certainly has some strength, but it's not enough, right? Wind Spirit sneered. I feel like I can poke him to death with one finger. One finger is a bit much. Brother Echo's strength is still okay. 2 fingers. Immortal Jin Yuan and his inner demon spirit had always been irreconcilable, but on this issue, he realized that he and the demon spirit were surprisingly on the same page. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't kill the innocent for fear of ruining the judgment of the divination and polluting the feng shui of this planet, at that time, Immortal Jin Yuan had indeed thought about directly poking this person to death. Immortal Jin Yuan sighed and stared at his inner demon in front of him. Are you here to stop me today? I'm going to take you back. Come with me, we'll build a world together. I'll be emperor. You'll be emperor. Wind Spirit stared at him. Jin Yuan, you can't wait much longer. Haven't you noticed that my outline is becoming clearer and clearer? Immortal Jin Yuan frowned deeply, his expression very solemn. Of course he had noticed, and also knew that he didn't have much time left. His inner demon was moving towards materialization, and was now almost 60% complete. Forget 100%, when it reached 90%, he would already be powerless to stop it. The materialization of the inner demon would completely devour him, and he wouldn't be able to stop it at all. When that time came, they would truly become one. It was just that his soul would forever be enslaved by this inner demon, and it would replace him as the new master of this body. And if such a thing were to happen, the entire human world would suffer a calamity. This world. What a beautiful world. Billy, which had just gone public. Ram's company. The growing strength of the nation. Immortal Jin Yuan still remembered that he had gone to see the documentary film Awesome, My Country a while ago. He didn't want to destroy these beautiful things with his own hands. Back then, the red-haired youth felt that separating this inner demon from his body was the stupidest decision he had ever made in his life. Wind Spirit. Immortal Jin Yuan looked up. His eyelashes were very long and his eyes were like the autumn light of water. Let's reason things out. Although he could not see the contours of the inner demon's expression, there was no need to see it at all. This was because the red-haired youth could imagine the cunning face of the inner demon when she smiled. Just as the inner demon had said, they came from the same source. Apart from their different personalities, everything else was the same as looking into a mirror. The inner demon folded her arms and stared at him with an amused expression. What's the reason? Today, I'm going to exterminate you. The moment she said this, Immortal Jin Yuan made his move. In the blink of an eye, his entire body directly disappeared, and a white blade of light drifted out from between his fingers. Like a flying dagger, it slashed out from under the black cloak at an extremely fast speed, like a divine dragon exploring the sea. God Extermination Blade? This wasn't the name of a magic weapon, but the name of a spell. With one slash, God Extermination Deception. A powerful aura instantly swept through the world with a momentum that even gods and devils would find hard to stop. This attack, which was made up of pure spirit energy mixed with primordial chi, didn't touch the ground. Just by passing through the sky, it already plowed a huge bottomless crack in the ground, like the mouth of a giant abyss, making people shudder. You're afraid that if you use all your strength, you'll destroy this planet that you found with so much difficulty. Wind Spirit sneered in the face of the God Extermination Blade attack. It's just a mere grade 9 spell, I can also. Wind Spirit didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure, and with a flick of his fingers, a blade of light also flew out. Using the God Extermination Blade, to fight the God Extermination Blade. But the difference was, Wind Spirit's God Extermination Blade was black. It wasn't as pure as Immortal Jin Yuan's, and was mixed with a kind of dark boundless power, which was even more hair-raising to look at. The two God Extermination Blades collided head-on, causing the already cracked ground to become even more devastated. The two energies tore at each other and finally formed a huge energy explosion, like the explosion caused by a meteorite impact. Immortal Jin Yuan narrowed his eyes and rose into the air. He floated in the air because there was no longer any place to stand on in the soil under his feet, and every step forward would lead to a bottomless abyss. After the explosion subsided, Immortal Jin Yuan gazed at the smoke in front of him and flicked his sleeves lightly, instantly dispersing it. He looked at Wind Spirit in front of him. This God Extermination Blade is a spell I created not long ago. How do you know it? You've already ruled me out, but that doesn't mean you won't have inner demons. It's just that all of them will come to me. Inner demons also contain your memories. So you know how to do it, and I know how to do it. whether it's in the past or now.
Wind Spirit faced immortal Jin Yuan in the air. If you use your full strength, you might stand a chance, and there's a slim chance you can destroy me, Wind Spirit teased. He knew that the red-haired young man in front of him couldn't bring himself to do it at all, because the planet stored in this space had been found with great difficulty outside the Milky Way. Although it was a lot smaller than Earth, it was the second planet most suitable for human cultivators to live on. As long as they laid down simple nomological laws and built the mountains and rivers, it would be fine. The most important thing was that this small planet was very rich in spirit chi. Wind Spirit couldn't help laughing.
Actually, you and I just need to work together and search carefully.
In this vast outer Milky Way, there are planets more suitable for us to build an empire on.
Immortal Jin Yuan was a little tired. They were equal in strength, and even if they went all out in a fight, they might not necessarily end well. Putting aside whether or not he could seriously injure this inner demon, he was bound to be injured in the fight. Once he was injured or in a weakened state, this devil spirit wouldn't even need to wait for it to completely materialize before it could directly seize his body. At that moment, Immortal Jin Yuan was truly in a dilemma. Everything. Was it all over? Immortal Jin Yuan looked up, his cloak fluttering despite the lack of wind. But right at that moment, Immortal Jin Yuan and Wind Spirit felt it almost at the same time, as if the earth was shaking. To be exact, it should be the whole planet shaking. Then, there was a hum. All of a sudden, a beam of golden holy light fell straight down from the top of Wind Spirit's head. Chapter 519. It was a violent tremor that shook the whole planet, as if the core of the planet was churning. The moment the fluctuations hit, both Immortal Jin Yuan and Wind Spirit instinctively felt a sense of danger. But while it was dangerous, it wasn't fatal, so their expressions were quite calm. Wind Spirit frowned as he looked at the red-haired young man in front of him. He knew that the fluctuations definitely weren't from this man. Furthermore, there was a hint of surprise on the man's face, and it was clear that he didn't know anything about this abnormal energy fluctuation. Could it be that this planet was going to be destroyed? Wind Spirit instinctively thought of a hypothesis that might not be quite correct. Basically, he had all of Jin Yuan's memories. Back then, in order to find the second planet suitable for cultivators to live on, Jin Yuan had spent a whole 1,000 years exploring the Milky Way on his own. In the end, he had found the one he was standing on among countless other planets. Because this planet was dry and cracked all year round and didn't have the slightest bit of moisture, Immortal Jin Yuan had named it Drought Star. After spending 1,000 years, he had only found this one drought star. But Immortal Jin Yuan hadn't even finished exploring a 10th or 12th of this vast Milky Way. Because he had to consider the time it would take for him to return, Immortal Jin Yuan's trip to the planet had ended very quickly, and he had only brought back this drought star. Although this planet didn't have any moisture, it actually wasn't a big problem. The most important thing was that this planet had a stable structure and was rich in spirit energy, which was what Immortal Jin Yuan had set his eyes on. So the moment Drought Star shook, Wind Spirit felt that the theory in his mind wasn't very reliable. But if this abnormal energy fluctuation wasn't from Jin Yuan, then who could it be? To be able to cause this kind of fluctuation, it was clear that this person's strength had already surpassed true immortal level. But in the current world of human cultivators, Wind Spirit and Jin Yuan were the only two people who had broken through to true immortal realm. In the short 2 seconds that the planet shook, Wind Spirit thought of a lot of things. Then, all of a sudden, he felt a very warm feeling on his head. Wind Spirit looked up. He was stunned to find. It was a beam of light. Lord Ma's space transmission spell actually opened up a passageway, and it took no more than 5 seconds for Wang Ling to locate the coordinates he wanted from the Wang family's small villa. But it was in these 5 seconds that Wang Ling, who was about to emerge from the passageway, sensed the aura of someone in this space. Furthermore, they were 2 completely different auras. When Wang Ling sensed these 2 auras colliding violently, he immediately realized that someone was fighting in this space. And it was obvious that neither of them was weak. At least judging from their auras, Wang Ling felt that they were more reliable than Evil Sword God. Wang Ling hadn't expected that there would actually be people here, so the second before he was teleported, he hurriedly cast the Great Void spell on himself to make himself transparent. Wang Ling didn't use this spell very often, because once the Great Void spell was activated, it would take 12 hours for the spell to dissolve on its own. Just like the Great Fortune Art, it was a great Tao that could not be cancelled halfway. Actually, in the 3,000 Great Daos, there were many spells that couldn't be cancelled midway. After all, these were the 3,000 Great Daos, the existences that modern cultivators called Heavenly Dao. Using it and cancelling it as one pleased. How humiliating would the Heavenly Dao be? Thus, this move wasn't suitable for school. Thus, when the light of teleportation directly shone down on Wind Spirit's head like a miracle, Wind Spirit subconsciously covered his eyes. Although he hadn't fully formed yet, his visual organs were still there. This light was very dazzling to his eyes. In the distance, Immortal Zhenyuan also narrowed his eyes slightly as they also felt a stabbing pain. Both of their hearts shook almost at the same time. It wasn't normal for them to actually be able to feel a stabbing pain. After becoming a venerated immortal, the heavenly eye would transform into an immortal's eye, which was called Immortal Eye for short. In terms of performance, the Immortal Eye was naturally far superior to the Heavenly Eye. Even evil sword gods, Purple Investigative Demon Eye, couldn't compare to the Immortal Eye by 1 or 2 10,000ths. But even so, they were still stung by the golden light that descended from the sky. Even Wind Spirit, who was relatively close to it, could feel his eyeballs burning. Wind Spirit gritted his teeth and endured the pain, which he hadn't felt in a long time, and almost lost his composure and cried out in alarm. However, the teleportation light quickly disappeared. When Wind Spirit opened his eyes again, he saw that the teleportation light had disappeared. When Wind Spirit opened his eyes again, he suddenly saw a flash of green in front of him. Then he felt something meaty smashing into his face. He was actually unable to maintain his balance due to the huge impact, and was directly sent flying through the air. F***K. At the same time, Loopy Toad cried out in its heart as it was lifted up by a golden light. This was Wang Ling's golden light shield. When fighting in space outside Earth, the golden light shield also had the effect of an adaptive magic ring, which allowed Loopy Toad to quickly adapt to its environment. Furthermore, when gravity changed, it could also allow Loopy Toad to float freely in the air. Actually, no matter where the space was, Wang Ling had to strengthen Loopy Toad's golden light shield. Because in the 5 seconds he had been in the passage, he had already sensed that this space was very dangerous. And when they actually landed, Wang Ling's suspicions were confirmed. It was as if a heavenly dog had gnawed on a large chunk of the ground under their feet. There were still fluctuations of energy, and when they dissipated, the gas that was released smelled very much like gunpowder smoke. It was very obvious that someone had already been fighting. Loopy Toad floated in the air on its 4 dog legs, feeling a little unused to it. But very quickly, it calmed down and looked at the ground under its paws, which looked like it had been hit by a primordial chi bomb. Speaking of which, did it bump into something just now? Because of Little Master Ling's golden light shield, Loopy Toad hadn't felt the slightest bit of pain even after such a violent collision. A dog. In the distance, Immortal Zhenyuan looked at the green figure in the air after the golden light dissipated with a bewildered expression on his face. Why would a dog land here? And from the looks of it, it was a dog that hadn't taken human form. But the point was that this dog had a faint layer of golden light on its body. Oh my! Could that be the legendary golden light shield? Immortal Zhenyuan remembered that it was an almighty halo that could only be obtained after one's body had become a sage, and after comprehending 3 or more heavenly Dao and using the power of heavenly Dao to condense a Dharma idol. Could it be this dog was the savior? Chapter 520. Although he clearly felt that this answer was a little unrealistic, Immortal Zhenyuan was someone who had seen much of the world, and he very quickly regained his composure. There were too many bizarre things these days. Immortal Zhenyuan was already used to them. In fact, when he had been calculating the hexagram previously, he had felt that it was very strange, because the final result of the hexagram would always show the character G. But Immortal Zhenyuan still didn't understand what on earth this G represented. At first, Immortal Zhenyuan had speculated that it might be a surname. But he very quickly rejected this answer. Nowadays, whenever something happened in the entertainment circle, someone would reveal that some G was a little fresh meat with the surname XXX. That person would at least give a range, but this simple G was really too wide a range. Now that Loopy Toad had appeared, Immortal Zhenyuan suddenly felt relieved. It turned out, this G meant dog, in that instant, Immortal Jin Yuan suddenly felt that the principle of great Tao being the simplest really did exist. Wang Ling, who was in a state of nothingness, could clearly hear the figure of the red-haired young man standing in the air in the distance and looking at Loopy Toad as he sighed with emotion.
Gee.
Actually, Wang Ling's first thought was that it was the crispy noodle snacks. In the nothingness, Wang Ling watched the red-haired young man's every move. Actually, he didn't expect this red-haired young man to be the legendary immortal Jin Yuan. This was probably the first time Wang Ling had come into contact with an expert at the venerated immortal level. He could clearly sense that this immortal Jin Yuan and the person whom Loopy Toad had sent flying earlier both had the power of two heavenly Tao nomological powers in them. Taoist Guang's idea was completely correct. After reaching the venerated immortal level, you could indeed receive a boost from the power of heavenly Tao. As for how many you could open up, it depended on luck and talent. In fact, it wasn't Taoist Guang who had come up with this theory at the very beginning. It was just that the concentration of spirit qi in the cultivation world was getting thinner by the day, and many experts had analyzed that there shouldn't be any experts above true immortal level in the world, so the idea that one could comprehend heavenly Tao after reaching the venerated immortal level had never been confirmed. Furthermore, there were even some extremists who believed that the venerated immortal realm didn't exist at all, and that even the widespread immortal Jin Yuan was just a legend. But now that he had seen immortal Jin Yuan in person, the case had already been solved. First, immortal Jin Yuan was indeed a venerated immortal. Secondly, becoming an immortal venerable could indeed comprehend the heavenly Tao. Third, the above 2 points actually didn't have much to do with Wang Ling. Because with two heavenly Tao in his body, this level wasn't enough for him at all. Although stepping into the immortal reverent realm was indeed different from being a true immortal. When he had seen General Yi and Secretary Dakong before, he hadn't felt the slightest bit afraid. But now, at the very least, his heart raced twice a minute. However, that was only 2 blows. Wang Ling sighed in his heart, still a little disappointed. To be honest, he felt that this immortal venerable realm was a little weak. But he still hadn't given up hope of finding the immortal's treasure house. Although this immortal was weaker than he had imagined, at least he had lived longer than him. Who knew if there was anything in the treasury that could suppress the primordial qi? Wang Ling lowered his head in thought. Senior dog. Senior dog. At that moment, immortal Jin Yuan had already flown over with an excited look on his face. He kept calling senior dog, which sounded a little like he was swearing at someone. This action startled Loopy Toad a little. But because of Wang Ling, Loopy Toad very quickly recovered its composure. Little Master Ling's aura was too strong, which made Dog 2 feel extremely at ease. It knew that Wang Ling had already entered his intangible state and was standing behind it. Furthermore, Loopy Toad was protected by the golden light shield, so it actually didn't need to panic at all. And now, Wang Ling was prompting it to put on an act. Loopy Toad could only do as he was told. May I ask how I should address Senior Dog? Immortal Jin Yuan was very respectful. The look in his eyes had already confirmed that Loopy Toad was the savior which his divination had foreseen. Loopy Toad wasn't in a hurry to speak, because if it was going to put on an act, it had to do it properly. Look at those true experts. Which one of them would casually strike up a conversation? It didn't even turn its head. In the face of a venerated immortal's warm greeting, Loopy Toad merely flicked its tail as if it were a horsetail whisk. Its posture was very confident and at ease. When Wang Ling was in his intangible state, it wasn't just his entire body that was invisible. Even his aura was completely concealed. Even its aura was completely concealed, and even immortal Jin Yuan couldn't detect it. Actually, this was already enough to show the gap between them. At that moment, Wang Ling stood behind Loopy Toad and quietly watched as his dog too played the role of savior. Wang Ling had already understood the general sequence of events from immortal Jin Yuan's mind reading, and had also synchronized the information with Loopy Toad. So Loopy Toad's expression now was that it knew what was going on. Seeing that this senior dog hadn't paid any attention to him all this time, the red-haired young man suddenly looked a little embarrassed. Just as he was about to speak, Loopy Toad directly raised a paw and pointed at the abyss under its feet, indicating for the young man to be quiet. Immortal Jin Yuan was startled again. As expected of the savior, he actually knew everything. He hadn't said anything yet. In the next instant, there was a bright glimmer of light in the gloomy pit under their feet, and a black sword light slashed out from the bottom of the abyss. Senior, be careful. This is the God Extermination Blade. It's a grade 9 spell.
Immortal Zhen Yuan warned. Loopy Toad pretended to be calm and closed its eyes. In any case, it could just leave everything to little Master Ling. It couldn't see the trajectory of a grade 9 spell at all. So, it might as well close its eyes. Only grade 9. The corners of Wang Ling's mouth twitched. Standing behind Loopy Toad, he flicked his fingers at the God Extermination Blade, and an invisible air cannon shot out from between them. This was the most basic grade 10 spell, the one-finger air cannon. In fact, Wang Ling could also use 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and the highest 4 fingers. But 2 fingers was level 11, 3 fingers was level 12, and 4 fingers was level 13. Because he had just arrived on this planet, he didn't know its structure very well. Wang Ling was worried that the destructive force would be too great, and it wouldn't be very polite if he destroyed the planet's core with 1 finger of air. In any case, Immortal Zhen Yuan had traveled outside the Milky Way for 1,000 years before he found a planet suitable for immigration. It really wouldn't be good to destroy it just like that. When this one-finger air cannon shot out directly, Immortal Zhen Yuan saw that the Black God Extermination Blade which Wind Spirit had shot out at the bottom of the abyss didn't even have a chance to hit, and was actually directly swallowed up halfway. When spells collided with one another, there were only 2 outcomes. Either they exploded or they were swallowed up. If the energy was swallowed up, this proved that the energy density of the one-finger air cannon was far above that of the God Extermination Blade. Immortal Zhen Yuan was instantly shaken. When this senior dog faced the God Extermination Blade, its expression had been so disdainful. And it had actually closed its eyes. Furthermore, it hadn't even made a move, but was actually able to launch such a powerful attack. Chapter 521. This air cannon had been fired from the front of Loopy Toad. From what Immortal Zhen Yuan could see, this senior dog hadn't moved at all. It just floated in the air, wrapped in a faint layer of protective golden light. At the same time, its eyes were slightly closed, and it had the air of an insufferably arrogant demon king. The red-haired young man was frightened by this aura. It was truly too frightening, and his train of thought was actually cut short for a moment. Earlier, he had been silently speculating about Loopy Toad's identity. Based on his many years of experience, Immortal Zhen Yuan had come up with several more plausible guesses, but he hadn't dared confirm them. At first, Immortal Zhen Yuan had thought that this senior dog in front of him was probably at peak venerated immortal level, but after firing this air cannon, he immediately rejected this idea. Because he could already hear Wind Spirit's mournful scream at the bottom of the abyss. Immortal Zhen Yuan couldn't help sucking in a cold breath. Wind Spirit was his inner demon and shared the same origin as him. Furthermore, they were both at the middle venerated immortal level. Even if this senior dog was at peak venerated immortal level, it shouldn't have been able to make Wind Spirit let out such a miserable scream with just 1 air cannon. Strength that far surpassed that of a venerated immortal. Immortal Zhen Yuan stared at Loopy Toad in astonishment, but it still had its eyes closed with an indifferent expression. To be honest, he was intimidated by this aura, and felt that his 3 views had been refreshed. Before he had met Loopy Toad, the red-haired young man had always thought that his realm was already the highest among cultivators today. Who could have thought that there really was a realm higher than venerated immortal? That was because one had to undergo the samsara spirit tribulation to break through to venerated immortal, which in turn consumed a tremendous amount of spirit energy of heaven and earth. Inferring from the concentration of spirit energy in this era, it was indeed as scientists had said, no one could cultivate to venerated immortal level, let alone an existence stronger than that. Immortal Zhen Yuan had been able to cultivate to this point partly because his cultivation was indeed very high, but a large part of it had actually been luck. That was because Immortal Zhen Yuan had discovered an energy body that could replace spirit energy and was even denser than it was, and he had borrowed this new energy body to reach the step. It had been an extremely painful process. When the energy body, which was even stronger than spirit energy, had filled his body, he had almost wanted to die. And his inner demon, which he now called Wind Spirit, had been separated when he had received the new energy. At the bottom of the abyss, Wind Spirit sank another few hundred meters after being hit by the cannon. However, his aura still existed, and he did not die. Only, one of his arms was already broken. Wind Spirit gritted his teeth and immediately used a healing spell to heal his wounds. However, the healing speed was extremely slow. Heavy damage effect? He had never thought that the spell would have such a special characteristic.
Even more so, he did not expect that a level 10 spell that could easily devour the god-destroying blade was cast by a dog. This was definitely not the power of an immortal sovereign. An immortal Empyrean's destructive power wouldn't be so great, but that strike just now nearly killed him. So when Wind Spirit floated up from the bottom of the abyss, his face covered in dirt, Immortal Jin Yuan was once again stunned by the scene in front of him. This was because Wind Spirit had suffered heavy injuries. His mouth and nose were bleeding, and most importantly, his right arm had actually been smashed by that attack. Standing behind Loopy Toad in his incorporeal form, Wang Ling carefully observed Wind Spirit in front of him. This was a mass of energy formed from Immortal Jin Yuan's inner demon, but it was gradually turning solid and exuding an evil aura, which was stronger than that of evil sword gods. After all, their realms weren't on the same level. Wang Ling hadn't immediately killed Wind Spirit in one blow, but had held back. On one hand, it was his first time running into a venerated immortal, and he wanted to test his strength. On the other hand, he didn't want to expose his identity in front of Immortal Jin Yuan at the moment, and it just so happened that this inner demon was here to experiment on. Wang Ling felt that this was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. This was an existence that had mutated from an energy body and transcended the 3 realms and the 5 elements. It shouldn't exist in this world, so Wang Ling wouldn't feel guilty even if he truly destroyed it. After that friendly and harmonious test just now, Wang Ling had indeed discovered the difference between a venerated immortal and a true immortal, because he had sensed primordial qi in the god-destroying blade just now. Although this primordial qi was far less powerful than his own. Why was Wang Ling's spell so destructive? Because it was a mixture of primordial qi and spirit energy. As Wang Ming had guessed, venerated immortals already had primordial qi in their bodies, but the truth was that the main medium for activating spells was still spirit energy. Since the primary and secondary factors were different, the effects of the spells would be completely different. At that moment, the atmosphere was extremely solemn. Wang Ling told Loopy Toad to keep its eyes closed to avoid being seen through. This Wind Spirit hadn't completely materialized yet, and its facial features couldn't be seen clearly, but Wang Ling could still sense its resentful gaze and its entire body was filled with hostility. If Loopy Toad met this kind of gaze head-on, its legs would definitely turn to jelly. Wang Ling habitually called this kind of oppressive gaze the jelly leg stare. But this kind of stare had no effect on Wang Ling at all. Essentially, the oppressive gaze was meant to evoke fear in a person's spirit. The problem was that the primordial qi in Wang Ling's body could help him control his emotions. Not to mention the fact that he wasn't afraid at all. Even if he wanted to be afraid, he wouldn't be. So in a normal situation, he just needed to steady his mind and not meet the other party's gaze. Loopy Toad closed its eyes. As for its mind, it was protected by its own golden light shield, so there was no need to worry. Very quickly, Wind Spirit, who was floating in the air, couldn't help but grit his teeth as he realized that his immortal eye suppression didn't have any effect on this dog at all. The main point was that this dog actually didn't even open its eyes. He was actually being looked down upon by a dog. As the hostility grew thicker and thicker, Wang Ling sensed abnormal energy fluctuations churning inside Wind Spirit's body, and at the same time, its aura also soared. Senior dog, be careful. This Wind Spirit is the manifestation of my inner demon, and the hostility will make him go berserk. Immortal Jin Yuan warned. To be honest, it had been a very long time since he had seen Wind Spirit in a berserk state. Before Wind Spirit's physical form had reached this level, Immortal Jin Yuan had found several opportunities to almost exterminate him, but each time, at a critical juncture, Wind Spirit would go berserk. In this berserk state, Wind Spirit's combat ability was very strong. Every time it came to this, Immortal Jin Yuan would have no choice but to avoid battle. That was because there was a big prerequisite to dealing with Wind Spirit, and that was that Immortal Jin Yuan couldn't be seriously injured, otherwise he could be devoured by this inner demon at any time. Senior dog, be careful. The red-haired young man shouted. At that moment, Wind Spirit had already launched his second round of attacks. He rushed over. His fist struck Loopy Toad's golden light shield. And then, his entire body was directly sent flying. Immortal Jin Yuan. Very well, senior dog, pretend I didn't say anything. Chapter 522. Wang Ling's protective golden light was so powerful that even a venerated immortal couldn't break through it. However, although Wind Spirit was bounced back, he did not suffer too much damage.
That blow just now was just a probing attack. He was testing the strength of the protective golden light. As a result, not only did the punch send him flying, but even his entire left arm was numb. What a powerful protective golden light! Wind Spirit exclaimed in his heart. Fortunately, he was quick-witted and did not use his full strength. Otherwise, the backlash from the protective golden light would only cause him to suffer the consequences. In this berserk state, the energy in Wind Spirit's body was abnormally restless, and the broken arm that Wang Ling had smashed apart earlier was now actually reformed with wisps of black qi. Wang Ling wasn't the slightest bit surprised. If this person had a human body, it would have been impossible for him to recover in a short period of time after Wang Ling had destroyed his arm and the heavy injury effect. However, the essence of the Wind Spirit was a high-density mutated energy body. It was not strange for it to extract a portion of the high-density energy in its body and turn it into 4 limbs. Wind Spirit pinched his new right arm as he stared at the red-haired young man in the air in the distance and laughed sinisterly.
Zhenyuan, are all you human cultivators so cowardly? You actually need to rely on a dog to save them?
Butt-Face's eyes couldn't help but twitch. What the hell? This guy actually discriminated against animals.
You are not allowed to talk about senior dog like that.
In the air, Immortal Zhenyuan shouted sternly. Since entering the modern era, humans and spirit beasts have adhered to the principle of peaceful coexistence. As for the spirit-beast contract, it's also based on equal cooperation. At the very least, we are all living beings, but you are not. Wang Ling nodded and felt that this was already pretty straightforward. To put it simply, you are not human. There was nothing wrong with what he said, but it completely enraged Wind Spirit. But don't you forget who created me. He let out a sharp shriek, and the ear-piercing sound waves rolled up a huge spirit tide. It surged wantonly, and even the sand in the vicinity was swept up. For a moment, the sky changed color, and the wind blew and clouds surged.
Wang Ling looked up at the sky.
Drought Star sky was gray without the slightest bit of light, and there wasn't a single drop of water here. But at that moment, a vast expanse of dark clouds had gathered in the sky, and it looked like it was going to rain heavily. The emotions of an immortal venerable could cause a phenomenon in the world. At that moment, Wang Ling made a second discovery. This was a very small discovery, but it could lead to an inference, and that was related to the density of the primordial qi that could be produced in the body of an immortal sovereign. Because the concentration of his primordial qi was too high, it directly had the effect of purifying his emotions. Even if he suppressed the Tao talisman, the concentration was only restored to a normal level for Wang Ling, so he usually had a poker face and couldn't smile even if he wanted to. After wearing the talisman, the ratio of the original qi to the spiritual power in his body was 50%. If he wanted to express his emotions normally, the concentration of the original qi had to be suppressed to 15% to 20%. This was the data that Wang Ming had calculated. Wang Ling remembered that the first version of the talisman seal that Wang Ming had developed could suppress the concentration of his primordial qi to 25%. It was just that the talisman's effectiveness had been getting lower and lower over the years. Immortal Zhenyuan couldn't refute Wind Spirit's point of view, because this was the truth. Wind Spirit had indeed been born because of him, and it could be said that Wind Spirit's brain contained the darkest side of Immortal Zhenyuan's heart. But even so, it was also true that this Wind Spirit wasn't a normal living creature. If he wasn't eliminated, there would be no end of trouble in the future. But Wind Spirit didn't think so. Because the heart demon had been separated from Immortal Zhenyuan, Wind Spirit subconsciously believed that he was in fact a human. So after hearing the red-haired young man's impassioned speech in defense of Senior Dog, Wind Spirit was almost instantly enraged. After turning invisible, Wang Ling could clearly see a black stream of air rapidly swirling around inside his body. This was none other than the vicious energy produced by the heart demon, which contained arrogance, jealousy, rage, sloth, greed, lust and lust. Usually, the Great Purification Spell was Wang Ling's first choice to deal with this kind of unclean thing. But not today. Because Immortal Zhenyuan had to personally kill this Wind Spirit. Wind Spirit had said before that if he killed himself or was killed by someone else, it would greatly damage Immortal Zhenyuan's cultivation. Thus, Wang Ling had to beat the other party to critical health and let Immortal Zhenyuan personally kill him. Behind Loopy Toad, Wang Ling felt a faint resentment in his heart. Why was this the control branch he was familiar with again? What scores were the most difficult in exams?
60 and the average score were the most difficult. But in a showdown between cultivators, the most difficult was this kind of deathly situation. Wind Spirit knew that this green-furred dog in front of him wasn't simple. Since he couldn't break through the golden light shield, melee combat was definitely out of the question. Narrowing his eyes, Wind Spirit decided to directly release his ultimate killing move and destroy everything here. Jinyin, I won't be soft today. At that moment, Wind Spirit, in his berserk state, shouted softly, and his voice directly whistled through the air to shake the whole planet. It was as if he was standing in the eye of a storm as black vicious energy swirled around him like a vortex. After a few seconds, the vicious energy around him actually started to gradually condense. He actually absorbed it? Immortal Jin Yuan was also startled at this scene. In the previous few matches, Wind Spirit in his berserk state had already been very difficult to deal with in melee combat alone. Wind Spirit would wrap the vicious energy around his fists to multiply his strength, then use his Ripple Sprint spell to create an aura. But this was the first time Immortal Jin Yuan had seen this move today, and he had no idea what the other party was going to do at all. After absorbing all the vicious energy into his body, Wind Spirit's body actually turned black straight away. Loopy Toad's eyes narrowed into slits as it was stupefied by the completely black Wind Spirit. Wasn't this little black downstairs? Wind Spirit smiled sinisterly as he looked at Immortal Jin Yuan. Jin Yuan, have you ever seen a grade 12 spell? Grade 12. Immortal Jin Yuan was stupefied. The most powerful killing move he could use now was only grade 11. Furthermore, this move contained 2 of his great heavenly Dao. This was a killing move that he absolutely couldn't use unless he had no other choice. It had the power to destroy a planet. Grade 12. Immortal Jin Yuan couldn't imagine it at all. Very quickly, Wang Ling noticed that the black color of Wind Spirit's body had returned to normal. And there was a small ball the size of a glass bullet on his finger, which wouldn't be noticed at all if one didn't look carefully. After Wind Spirit went berserk, he had absorbed all the materialized vicious energy and condensed it into this small black ball. Although it was very small, it gave people a feeling that the power wasn't that great. But it was just an illusion. When Father Wang was writing, readers often complained that his chapters were too short, but this was actually also an illusion. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.